Franklin County Board of County Commissioners is now in session. This regular meeting Tuesday, January 18th. It's good to see you this morning. If you would, let's open in prayer and pledge. Commissioner Ward.
We come to you today to pray that you allow us to conduct county business in a fair and impartial manner. We also pray in our community, Lord, for everyone that's been sickened by COVID, and hope that they continue to feel better. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed,
Yes, sir.
I will ask that the board will consider an amendment to the agenda. Inadvertently left off public hearing. It's been duly advertised. It's an ordinance amending the Franklin County Comprehensive Plan to adopt a private property rights goal, objective, and policies as required by Chapter 163.31776I of the Florida statute. It's something that Mark has discussed with you guys before about the state and the changes they made, and we either go with their language or we go through a very long process to adopt our own language. That is scheduled for 10:35 or soon after an additional public hearing that you already have scheduled at 10:30. I think Attorney Schuler would like to have a few words before.
No, you hit the right check mark, which is amend the agenda to provide for a public hearing at 10:35 for the subject matter you just described.
Okay, cool.
Had a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parrish and Commissioner Ward. Any discussion, commissioners? All in favor? Aye.
And for the public's knowledge, while we're here going through the rest of the meeting, I'll try my best to upload the upload the notice to the current agenda, refresh it, so if everybody goes back to the agenda, they'll be able to find that notice, okay? Everybody's watching virtually or through Royce's site.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Up next will be approval of minutes from the December 21st meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Payment of county bills. Now, do we need to do this separately or can we do them together, Michael?
You could, I
Does it
prefer you do
matter?
it separately, so I
Okay.
have it on the record where you
Okay.
ratified one, and then you approve today's list.
All right, so the first action is to ratify the payment of the January 4th, 2022 bill list.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is unanimous vote. The next would be approving the current bills, January 18th.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's also unanimous vote. Up next will be Mr. Alan Pierce.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is just I'll be here later on for the planning and zoning stuff, but I just want to inform the board, as I think I said in December, that the notice of intent to issue the permits by DEP for the East Point Channel and 2 Mile Channel, that notice was issued and the permits have finally been issued. I have them in my possession for the East Point Channel and the 2 Mile Channel, so we finally have the permits in hand. We are now waiting for the Corps to send me the documents that I need in order to get the money out of the consortium. There's a series of documents that the consortium wants to have their hands on, to, verifying that, the channel is going to be truly dredged, even though they don't believe, I guess they don't believe the Corps of Engineers. But in any event, so I'm waiting for those documents to be sent by Wayland Register. The chairman and I had a phone call with Mr. Register last week, and I'll let the chairman describe the timeline that Mr. Register described to us, which was sort of vague as to exactly when they're going to show up.
Yeah.
But I'm proceeding as if we're on some sort of schedule that's known and fixed, because what I'm going to do is get the consortium. Basically, I talked to Dan Duarte, the consortium executive director, and I can submit enough documents that he can pre-approve our $5 million. And so when the Corps finally says we're ready to dredge, then there's only 7 days. And then the consortium has 7 days, a maximum of 7 days to give us the money. Otherwise, it's 30 days of reviewing and stuff. So I'm gonna get all the documents to them ahead of time, and then we're just sitting on go. When the Corps says we're ready to dredge, then the consortium will have no more than 7 days to send us the money. And that's the timeline the Corps can live with. So the county, as far as I'm concerned, is proceeding forward. We are waiting for the East Point easement to be granted. To my knowledge, it's all complete. The state lands had asked Mr. Kennedy of Dewberry to certify the survey as the last step. He certified the survey last week. It's been sent to them, so it may be in my inbox now, having been issued, but we are waiting for the easement to be issued, but to my knowledge, it's in process. So I wish I could give you a timeline, because at this point, administratively, almost everything's done, but the Corps was very vague about the timeline.
Question. Chairman.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Pierce, that's coming out of BP money, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Will we have anything left after that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you give me a ballpark?
Yeah, so the East Point and 2 Mile dredging are coming out of the consortium money. The consortium money, ultimately, Commissioner, and I forget the exact amount of money. I'm going to say it's about $900,000 a year over 15 years. So we end up with about $12 to $14 million of consortium money. So we're earning that money, it, so to speak. The PB's paying it on an annual basis to the Gulf Council, which holds it for the consortium. But ultimately, we'll have, and I'll say $14 million, may only be $12 million, I forget. In fact, it's $11.7 million. I remember the number now. $11.7 million at the end of 15 years. So this allocation we're using now represents $5 million. But it also represents the $5 million that's in the bank right now. If we need another $1 million or so, I think by now, because it's been going on for 2 years, we probably have $7 million worth of funds that we could spend. But I don't know quite what you. The ultimate answer is we'll have $11.7 million, but we can't allocate that future money until it's in the bank. So if you ask me how much money could we spend today, I would say we really have about $7 million. But when I started this process with the consortium and the Corps, we only needed 5, so I only asked for 5. But if it's possible we could get more money out of the consortium if there was a cost overrun. But it comes in about $900,000 a year over the next 15 years, or over a 15-year period.
Well, let's spend some money on something good.
Well, we hope that the East Point and 2 Mile Channel is something worthwhile
I know
spending
that.
money on. Yeah.
I know that. Yeah, that's real good.
But the other money has not been specifically allocated. At one point, we had $1 million or $2 million set aside for an EOC, but we've been searching other money for that. And then we did set money sort of in reserve, Commissioner, for an Apalachicola Bay oyster project. But we have to have some guidance from divine intervention for us to start spending money on the bay, so we know where to put the money. I mean, there's $5 million we had said we would spend on a project, but we need to know what's the best way to spend that money. Because again, to remind everybody, this is a one-time allocation. So when we spend the money, that's it. There's not a recurring source of these funds, not only for the consortium, but also for the restore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your consortium funds are about $12 million over 15 years. Your restore money is about $22 million over 15 years. And just to switch topics briefly, just since we're talking about BP money, so on your restore, you have allocated you've allocated $100,000 for design of stormwater on St. George Island. You have not allocated a specific amount of construction money. I'm going to say it's $2 million, maybe it's less, because things are getting a lot more expensive. You've allocated $100,000 for a dune-wide restoration project, countywide, a dune restoration countywide. That was $100,000 of design money. Again, construction, $1.5 million. I don't really know, we haven't gotten there. But you have more money in restore in Treasury, because there you probably have $9 million in restore. So you have other funds available in restore if you want to do it. I have told the board, told the public that, well, let's keep $5 million in abeyance of restore money in the event we do an Alligator Point beach renourishment project. But as time slips by, and we're making very slow progress on Alligator Point, you do have another $5 million of restore money that, with an amendment to your multi-year implementation plan, you could spend that money sooner. But that's your discretion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could you briefly give us a visual explanation of how that dredge material is going to be developed into an island? And where does that
Well,
look
it's,
like?
if you're standing in East Point and you're looking at the channel, there's a channel coming through in the breakwater to the east and to the west. The island will be 26 acres. The spoil material will be put on 26 acres on the west side. So that barrier, that granite barrier rock wall there, or not rock wall, but rock
Yeah.
breakwater on the west side. It'll be behind that, so to speak, out in the open water. It'll be mounded up a couple of feet above sea level. It's not going to be, you know, dunes and all that kind of stuff, but a couple of feet above sea level, tapering off obviously back to sea level. But it's 26 acres. The Corps will use some of the heavier sand material to dredge the perimeter, and then they will fill that in with the softer, muckier material out of the channel. So they'll initially come in there and dredge a perimeter of harder, more angular sand, and I just forget now where that sand's coming from. It could be coming from the backside of the breakwater that's sort of already built up. I think it's where it's coming from. But also they'll build a perimeter, and then they'll fill that in with the more silty material that over time will then settle out. We then will pay, and we've already given the Apalachicola National Estuarine Research Reserve $5,000, and they will then go out there and, with a planting plan that's already been approved by DEP and the Corps, and they will plant vegetation out there to stabilize it. Ultimately, and then we're stabilized with the marsh type vegetation. Ultimately, there could be other things that grow by succession, and so the island over, you know, not a geologic time, but over a long period of time, 10, 20 years, could end up looking like the 2 Mile Islands. The 2 Mile Islands were actually dredged material just like East Point is going to be dredged material, and it evolved into pine trees and a very stable environment over 30 years, 40 years. So that's the ultimate goal for the East Point breakwater, is to create an island that is sustainable and protects the harbor from, you know, wave action and other storms.
I got one more question.
Yes, sir.
What are them people doing with them palmetto trees in the bay on that west side? I see they got palmetto.
I think those people are duck hunting, Commissioner,
That's what
is what I think they're doing.
I always see somebody in them.
Yeah.
Some of them got stranded, if I read the newspaper correctly, some of them got stranded a couple of weeks ago and they had to get rescued.
Yeah.
Their boat sank.
I seen them out there with them
Yeah.
camouflage on, and I figured they were hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know quite how close to the causeway you can get, but anyway.
They be right on the side of the road. Not that
That's,
far.
somebody thought you couldn't discharge guns from the side of the road, but I'll let someone else worry about that.
Yeah. So
I mean, it ain't, it's in the water, but it's
Yeah, but
not
that's,
far.
to wrap up what Mr. Pierce is saying, when we were talking to them from the Corps and just ask them about a date, they're like, yeah, we really don't have that yet. I mean, they just refused to give us a date. So anyway, we'll see how it progresses over time, because we've done now everything that can be done, haven't we? To check every box to be ready to do both of these projects. So we'll see.
yeah, I mean, the Corps controls the situation at this point. I mean, they have all along, but now the permit's out of their hands, so they can't hide behind the permit that's been issued. I need the documents that they have already created, they need to give us, so we can give to the consortium to get the money. I mean, they're controlling the situation.
So the documents you're referring to right now, though, Alan, are they the set of plans?
Construction plans, yeah. Come to find out, when I've actually read the agreement between the county and the consortium, the consortium didn't require all 500 pages of plans. They just required enough to prove that the plans were complete and signed by the Corps. So I've sent that information to Wayland.
So you've already sent that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
sent it to him last week.
Okay.
But them both fishermen and the swimmers, they ready for it.
Yes, sir. I'm sure they are.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Pierce? I think that just about covered it, Alan.
Yeah, okay.
That was all you had, correct?
For that,
Okay.
that part, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, up next, Ms. Tracy Busby, talking about the American Rescue Plan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, just fine. Please proceed.
Okay. As you know, the final rule came out the first week in January, so this was the rule that we've been waiting on to determine if they had lessened their requirements on the American Rescue Plan. And it did come out, and it's very it contradicts itself, I guess, is the best answer. So what's happened is they have a thing called the standard allowance, with any county that receives less than $10 million is allowed to take the standard allowance. So that, in their words, says you're allowed to spend on governmental services, generally included, but traditionally provided by government unless Treasury has stated otherwise. So in the first part of the rule, it says you can do construction of schools, hospitals, road building, maintenance, infrastructure, health services, general government admin, environmental remediation, provision for police, fire, and public services. However, once you get further into the rule, it says that these funds cannot be used for any project that conflicts or undermines COVID-19 mitigation practices in line with CDC. So in the beginning, it's saying you can do anything you want, but then as you read deeper into the rule, it actually gives you limitations on the projects you can do. So the one thing that we've been doing is we've had a few calls to discuss projects and talk through things, and that's kind of where we are right now. We're going through, because what Ms. Griffin and I talked about, like, we really want to, whatever project goes forward, we want to be able to write the justification and be able to stand behind the project. So that's kind of our goal. Even though Treasury will not approve any project, we want to make sure that it stands on its own, that when you do spend the money, that they're not going to come and claw back any funds for a project that you put forth. The basic things, you know, all projects must follow the 2 CFR procurement, which you guys do. And then, you know, no new construction of any kind of jails or congregate facilities. They did specifically spell out that. You can't use it for any kind of debt service or replenishing any rainy day fund. And then the biggest thing is like right now, we're still in January. Well, any rule has to be out for 60 days. So the final rule will not take place until April 1st. So anything that you decide to do right now is actually going to fall under the old interim rule guidance, which was way stricter than this final rule. So the first reporting for this will be on April 30th. And the projects that we have talked about, I mean, all of them seem to be falling. Nothing in stone per se of any of the projects, but I know it's discussions that Mr. Moran and Ms. Griffin had with, you know, different commissioners and different department heads and that type of thing. So that's kind of a breakdown. The rule is several pages long, and then they actually did a guidance book, which is about 44, and I just break it down into like a page of bullets. So I can pull additional information, send you guys via email or however you want if you have additional questions on anything. And also we could talk through some things.
Yes, ma'am, that sounds good. I know that listening to the NACO webinar, the National Association of Counties webinar about it was it was an interesting listen, but I think it'd be good for you to use to send what you have to us so we could look at it.
Yes, sir.
Because we want to do the right thing, of course, but and make sure we're not putting the county or our residents at risk for some kind of clawback or some other thing. But I know that it seemed like I remember they were saying that even though you're in this time period between when the final rule is actually finalized, which is kind of weird to call it a final rule and not be finalized, but they said,
yes,
seemed to me, Tracy, they said that you could actually choose, if you started doing projects now, you could report and tell them we're going by the final rule or we're going to use the interim rule, but you can't flip-flop back and forth. Did you remember hearing something like that?
I was on and I did not hear that you could choose. What I heard is, and I know they held like several different ones, and I think, which I didn't like that they held different ones because I think questions were asked on some that then weren't
Yes.
reported out on others.
Yes.
The one that I heard that anything between now and April 1st is the interim rule, but I could definitely look and see if they're saying, can you go by the final rule guidance?
Right.
I understood you couldn't go by final rule guidance until it actually becomes the final rule.
Okay. Well,
But
if
I
you-
will definitely check that out.
Yeah, if you could check on it, that would be substantially different, I think.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
you know.
of course, yes.
And then I think the one I listened to, what they were trying to communicate is that, yeah, it's not the Wild West. You can't just get this money and do anything and not go through proper procedures and not have, things bid on. But the way I understood it, if a county received less than $10 million, the allocation was pretty much up to the county on how to spend it in certain ways. I could be wrong, but that's the
Yes,
way
sir, and that
that's
was
the way I
like on
understood it.
page 4 of
Yeah.
like the guidance document. But then
Mhm.
if you go down to like in the 40s, let me see, I might have it right here. It was like page 41 maybe. That's where it came with all the restrictions of the general government services.
Right. Right.
I mean, I do think it's much more lenient, obviously, than the first and then
Yes.
the interim.
It is.
But I still think, just to be careful, we just kind of want to make sure that we're writing it, that everything can kind of be tied back to, and I think that's possible, because, I mean, quite honestly, right now, everything's affected by COVID-19. So, I mean, I think we can write things to fit, but I also think, like, it's not a free-for-all. So we just
Right.
want to make sure whatever we're choosing, that we could do that one pager or whatever, just to back it, that goes with the reporting.
Okay, so yeah, if you could find out the answer on that for us and send us what you have, maybe we can
Yes.
go further in this conversation. You got a question?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I have one question. What is the allocation for Franklin County?
You've got 2,355,139, of which half of that was put into your bank. Ms. Griffin, I think it was like late August, maybe, because it's 1 year and 1 day that the second half will be put in your bank account. So like right now in the bank, you have like 1,125,000.
Any other commissioners have any questions?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I wanna know, do the commissioners get paid? I asked that question before, I ain't never got an answer.
Ms. Tracy, did you hear anything about that, or was anything discussed
I
about
said,
that?
I heard something about can something get paid. I did not
Do
hear.
the commissioners get paid for, like other people
Commissioners.
did?
Get paid for what, sir? I'm sorry.
Like the other people did when they was passing out money?
I don't know the answer for sure. What are you talking about? Like, because there is pay allowable for like people actually responding. So, are you just talking about like a one-time allowance?
Yeah, that's what the rest of them get. We work too.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bolt?
Tracy, can you consider whether there's funding available to establish a freestanding kidney dialysis program here in Franklin County? Can you see if that's an appropriate source of funding?
Yes, sir. So can I just ask a few questions on, is this the same one that's being in Gulf County, or is this literally a standalone in Franklin County?
Well, the background was that I understand that any monies that we had thought to allocate to Gulf County to supplement their kidney dialysis program was not available through our healthcare trust fund, because that money has to stay in Franklin County. So I was just
Yes.
considering, why not consider establishing the kidney dialysis program here in Franklin County using American Rescue Plan funds. The background is that we do have a weekly visit from a urologist out of Tallahassee in Franklin County every week, and over 1,200 insured members from Capital Health Plan alone reside here in Franklin County. We have not lost our ability to file insurance claims with the almighty Florida Blue Insurance Company and other insurance companies. And the mecca of medicine that is being developed at Weems and its background with support from Tallahassee healthcare, etc., and a tremendous infrastructure of management with our management company, all of these things begin to give me the vision that potentially that kidney dialysis program could be established right here in Franklin County. And I was wondering if that might be a meritorious program for the American Rescue Plan to consider funding. Could you consider commenting and look that up potentially?
Yes, sir, I will. And of course, this would fall under the initial, like on page 4 of the government services, because one of the line items is health services. However, the biggest thing that makes me nervous, I guess is the word, is that nothing that undermines the COVID-19 mitigation. So is there a way to tie that with COVID-19, or maybe, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head, by not having, your residents have to travel to Tallahassee to be around additional people. I mean, I think we could explore it for sure. And then it kind of goes back to, I know last week we had talked about supporting money to the dialysis center in Gulf County. And my main thought, the other thing, and I think that Mr. Chairman had touched on it, that the funds stay in Franklin County, so there's a lot of possibilities, I guess, that we could try to research and write up.
Tracy, it might be helpful. Listen, we could sit here and ask you questions all day long, and you might not know the answer to them. So it might be helpful just to do some research. I will say this, though, the glaring thing that sticks out to me about that possibility is you're using a one-time allocation to start something you're going to continually pay for.
Right.
That's usually not a good foot to start off on. But, research it and find out for us if you don't mind, and we'll move on from there. And we understand today that you're not going to be able to answer every question we might ask. So.
Yes, sir. And maybe, we have a workshop or so, what I mean, where we literally can brainstorm.
Yes.
We can come down and just sit with you guys for the afternoon or whatever, and then kind of go through anything and everything you'd like to do, do a whiteboard, and then let's figure out what works.
There you go. That sounds good to me. Commissioners, do you have any more further questions for Ms. Busby? All right, Ms. Tracy, I think if you'll send us what the paper you were talking about you already were working on that kind of had the bullet points.
Yes, sir.
For us to consider, and maybe we can move forward with the discussion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, so up next is public comments. Michael, this is the only email that I know of receiving.
Yeah, that's the only one. No one handed anything in today to me before the meeting started. It's Miss Debbie Jordan. Ms. Jordan, are you on that phone line?
1549?
Yes. That's
right.
what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me do this. Thank you, sir. And ma'am, if you would go ahead and *6.
I'm here.
You're there. Okay, good morning. State your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Debbie Jordan, and I am calling because, as you know, I've approached our commissioner and asked for some help with our fire department. I don't see any progress in that department. I've approached the commission and the coordinator and the attorney. I'm still not seeing any movement. I did, however, speak with the director of the Florida State Firefighters Association, and I wrote Jimmy Petronis, who had Director Julius Hallis from the State Fire Marshal. They contacted me and arranged a 45-minute conference call in which they do hear and validate some of the concerns that I brought to them. I understand that they were to have spoken on the February 1st meeting, which unfortunately was canceled, but I'm sorry, at the beginning of this month, excuse me, that meeting was canceled, but that they are rescheduled to appear on February 1st at 11 a.m. Director Hallis and Joanne Rice said that a 30-minute time slot is allotted. That's really not enough time. They want to bring a representative from the ISO with them, so they really need an hour. They really need, let's get this stuff resolved. You know that the people are very concerned about this, and I'm just one who's speaking for many. Let's give them an hour. Let's give them time, because it's going to take them 7.5 to 8 hours, the people from the ISO, to drive up here to Franklin County to attend this meeting, and to try to squeeze it into 30 minutes is not adequate. So I'm pleading with you to amend the time allotment for them and give them, let's get some answers, let's get some resolution, let's get some change. That is all I have to say this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan.
Thank you.
That was the only one, wasn't it, Michael?
That's the only one I have.
All right, but before we move on, let me ask you a question. Hasn't the fire marshal's office been communicating with you about their presentation, what they're wanting to do?
Yes, and I'll address that. Well, I can address it now. I have an item, or later in my report.
Okay.
I have an item where we had, actually ARPC has February 4th, and I need to talk to you about that, how you want to
Okay.
schedule that.
Okay.
And then from that, I'll know how to schedule the fire marshal's office.
Okay.
What they said, they said they are available on February 1st, but they would like more time. So with that, I need to come back to the board and have a discussion and
Okay.
schedule them, not necessarily for February 1st, but sometime, on one of your future agendas.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, fair enough. Now, there wasn't a report from Clark Maxwell today, was there?
No report from the clerk.
Okay. All right, so moving on, Mr. Howard Neighbors, Superintendent of Roads and Bridges. I need to put my glasses back on. Roads and Bridges. Mr. Howard,
Good morning, Commissioner.
good morning.
I hope all y'all doing well.
Yeah.
We are.
I do got a couple of items that, one from Alligator Point, which the weather we had, Saturday night into Sunday morning, which took about 300 yards of the road out, half the road, not all of it. But, they was down pretty quick to fix it. I think everything was opened back up around 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And also, each saw the St. George Island had about 50 foot. Also.
For some reason, it's muffling when you're
Yeah, Howard,
talking.
for some reason, the end of your Alligator Point, your Dog Island discussion was a little muffled there. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, but where they had the sheet metal up, Ma, was fine. It's the place where they hadn't put the sheet metal up yet.
Okay, on
Okay.
Alligator Point.
Yeah.
And what was the other one you brought up?
East Sawyer on St. George Island,
Okay,
on the curve right here, about 50 foot of it, with a section it was washed out also.
oh, wow. Okay,
And I think we're, through the year, we've had them rocks there, and I think we need to maybe get some more rocks or something in the future to put back on that curve right here.
okay.
Through the storm, the rocks has been washed every which direction, so.
Sounds good, Howard. Listen, I
And
know
I
you,
got one more also,
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner. On the bridge report, Walnut Creek. I think I brought that up about 3 years ago, and I think we're supposed to be getting a grant for that. And which the DOT to give us 2 weeks to notify back to them, to know what we're gonna do with that situation.
okay.
Walnut Creek, you said. I'll have to.
Womack Creek, right?
Walnut Creek, yes, sir, that's correct.
W-M-A-C-K.
Okay, Womack.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought you said Walnut, but yeah, it's Womack Creek. All right, Howard, how about I check on that and give you a call back later today, okay?
Okay, we sent the information to you this morning,
Yeah,
so you should have it, so.
okay, yeah, I saw an email from Virginia in my inbox. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir, that's all I have, Commissioner. We all doing good and, still working and hanging in there, so.
Sound like it was a long weekend, or a short
Yeah.
weekend, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that Sunday, Sunday night Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Well,
We checked the rest of the road, C30, in Carabel, in Appalachia where they're working, and all that was still good, so.
yeah. It's a broad area to keep keep an eye on, Howard. Thank you for
Yes, sir.
everything y'all do and the crew that works with you. I'm sure the people of Alligator Point are very thankful that that road was repaired quickly like it was.
Yes, sir. And they did good. I contacted them. They, they had to come from Bristol. Don't worry about that direction, but they got down and fixed it, and they were real nice about it, so.
Okay. So the area that didn't affect is the area, or the area it did affect was the area the sheep piles are not yet installed, correct?
Yes, sir. It's a place where the sheep island hadn't been installed. That's correct.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Any commissioners have any questions or concerns for Mr. Howard while he's still with us?
I'd like to bring up an item only because it mentions Howard.
Okay.
So he might need to do something depending on the decision of the board. If you go to page 9, item C, it's labeled planter in right-of-way. At your December 21st meeting, the board heard a request from Mr. Ward to allow an approximately 8x12 planter located in the county's right-of-way towards the end of Brinkley Street on St. George Island. The board took no action on this request. Therefore, a letter sent by Mr. Currington asking the wards to remove the planter that stands. As of last week, the planter was still in place. Therefore, board direction is needed to determine if Attorney Schuler will send a follow-up letter to the wards or if Mr. Neighbors will remove the planter without further notification. Just need some direction from the board as to what we're going to do with that planter. And since Howard was on the line, I want him to hear the discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, I'm looking at you.
does
sir.
gentleman not say that he would remove it? Didn't he make that public statement? That's my recollection.
He might have. I mean, I
Yeah,
really.
let's pull those minutes. I'd like a little transcript of that from the clerk so I can mail that to him.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll get it from Jessica.
Mr. Chairman, I understood he said he would like the county commissioner to leave it where it was.
Right, but we took no action. The board took no action.
That's correct.
So the county's request via Mark to remove it stands. That's what he needs to do. But he has not as yet. And so we would like some direction from the board as to, do we send one more letter, as Attorney Schuler indicated that he will with the minutes, or we just ask Howard, Mr. Neighbors, to remove it without notification?
Can I?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
When you're dealing with county property, people know they don't supposed to put things on. I mean, I don't care if it is, the day it could be back in the back where it's not seen. Like his case, I mean, but it's county property. And if you allow one to do it, it's gonna be all over the county. So either you go by your law, or you take the law off the book. That's the way I feel. I said, tell them to move it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes.
just, I'll tell the board how I plan to proceed depending on what your motion is, just so the board can tell me whether you approve or disapprove of the process. But we've had private obstructions in the public right-of-way before, and although I do believe the county has the right to go in without notice and take it down, I prefer to at least give the property owner a notice, tell them they've got 10 days either to remove it completely or have concrete plans in place to remove it. That way they at least have notice and an opportunity to fix the problem themselves before we spend public resources to go remove it. But so if your direction to me is to take enforcement action, I do plan on sending that notice unless you tell me otherwise.
I think that's the direction the board was good with. Like I said, there was no stance saying we were going to allow it to stay in the right of way. But I can't make a motion, so here we are.
Do we really need a motion, Mr. Chairman, or is this just board direction?
The attorney's asking for a motion to send the letter. Is that correct? Or do we need a motion?
No, I think as your attorney, I know your policies. I can
Okay.
send it without the
Okay.
motion. But I just want to make sure the board is understanding of, I do plan on giving them notice and an opportunity. Typically, it's 10 calendar days, and by that time, they should at least receive it, notify either myself or Mr. Morone what their intentions are, and then, if they've got a contractor hired and they can get to it on day 15 instead of day 10, I mean, typically we'll wait and give them the opportunity, but you know, if I receive silence, I know what silence means too, and we'll send the road department.
Well, I do think it'd be better to give them the opportunity. In other
Yes,
words, I don't think we just need to have county people go out there and start tearing stuff up. I mean, I don't, anyway.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, what about the other violations of people with stuff in the right of way? He's not the only one on the island that is in the county right of way. Just,
Yeah,
I'm just saying, to me, it sounds like you're picking on the guy. Because there's multiple instances of shrubs, of, barriers, big old pilot, boards in the way where people can't park next to these people's property. But they are actually in the county right of way, especially around the dune walkovers. As we've looked at maybe using some of that right of way on those side streets instead of the main road to park on, everybody's encroached on that right of way. So he's not the only guy on the island that's encroached in the county right of way.
no, and
So he comes and asks permission to be able to allow his stuff to stay. And now we're saying, no, you got to move that. But the other people are not saying anything, or we're not having them remove their stuff from the right of way.
But-
So it opens up a keg of worms.
There's a substantial difference though.
Okay.
The only reason this was notified is a complaint was sent to the county, to Mr. Currington about it.
From the state?
From the state.
Yeah.
From the adjacent property owner to that. And the other issue was the pictures don't always tell you everything. So the property owner in question lives across on the other side of the county right of way, and he put this on the other side of the right of way, in our right of way. It's not like it's beside his house or it's adjacent to his house. It's actually across the right of way.
I mean, I understand, I got planters in my yard,
Yep.
not on the county right of way. So I got planters too, but they're in my yard, they're on my property.
Yep.
And I don't understand why the guy couldn't put the stuff on his property if he wanted to plant it instead of putting them on the right of way. So I agree with
Yeah.
you. in that.
Yeah, and Commissioner Parrish, like recently, on the island, there was a storage facility company that had a fence built across the county's right-of-way. I think it was First Street, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember. And we told them to take it down, or we're sending, Howard was gonna go on his way, and he was gonna remove the fence for them. And it was a back and forth, but yeah. So I guess what I'm saying, as it's reported to us and we see where it's creating a problem, yeah, we take the best action we can to have them to remove it. And we don't, you can't catch them all because, we just don't have anyone riding around looking for that. But once it's reported, we try our best to handle it.
Mike, you'll send me the contact name and information, because I don't have that for my.
Okay, I'll send you whatever I have.
You know what? Everybody who buy property, it's a survey done. They know exactly where their property begin and end. So I'm gonna let it real here now. If they wrong, just tell them to move it. Or either take the law off the book. That's the only way I see it.
Does anyone have any further questions for Mr. Howard while he's here? You were finished, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I got one question on the fence, commissioners, on the flower thing the guy got. If the county does go in there and take it down, tear it down, you want us to haul that off or just put it back on his property?
Back on his property. I thought he took the fence down. Is it still up?
No, I'm talking about the flower bed stuff
Oh, you said fence.
off Bell Street, yes.
Well, hopefully it won't come to that, Howard. We'll have some days to
Okay.
parse that out.
I don't know that we're there on 12th Street yet.
Yeah.
I don't get that sense from the board, so.
Yep. Howard, thank you, and tell everyone at the road department that we thank them for their service, not only to this board, but to the county as a whole.
Commissioners, thank y'all.
Yes, sir. Up next, Mr. Fonda Davis, Solid Waste Director, among other things.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Dancing
I have
firemen.
no action item this morning. Just all I want to let you all know that the bathrooms on the fishing pier on East Point side is full swing,
Cool.
ready to go.
Really?
What I would mention to you also that next meeting I will be coming with action for the old restrooms on St. George Island. We having plumbing problems. We have them locked right now, so they're not in use. Just something for y'all to think about until then. That's all I have this morning.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Davis? While he's
Yeah,
on?
what's going on with them bathroom on the island?
Plumbing,
You said they not in use?
right? We locked them up. That's the old bathrooms.
Or
The
that-
new ones is in use.
And you said you were coming,
Yes, sir. Decide, do we want to demo them or we want to try to find some other use for them?
oh, okay, I thought you meant they were,
Oh, no, that's the old restroom.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I thought they, my bad, I thought, I thought they needed to be fixed, I'm sorry.
Oh, nah.
I'm sorry, okay.
So Fonda, we did, I don't know how it's gonna go, we did get, added pretty high on the list, for the improvements at Vrooman Park and the St. George Island Park restroom. The legislatures are considering this session of funding, so maybe they'll come through. I didn't know if you knew that, but I didn't know if the public knew, so I wanted to make sure and say it today.
Yes, Aaron had mentioned it to me.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. But, I want to thank you all for moving, towards getting the bathrooms repaired. You got people out there thinking that, well, we did this, we did that, but you, the commissioners, I really thank you all for getting that open back up.
well, it takes us all, sir, and you and your people that work under you do a great job and a great service to the people of this county with a limited source of funds and a limited number of people. So
Yes.
thank you.
But we removed them, wasn't, Mr. Davis, that'll give some extra room, right?
We say, Commissioner?
If we remove them, wouldn't, I mean, demo.
Oh, the old restrooms on, yeah, I think it's something we making use them for, and I know the lighthouse that shares some interest in different things. Like I said, I want to wait and think about it a little bit more before I bring it back to the board.
Or Mike can just take the stuff out of it and use the building for some storage.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, whatever you decide,
Yeah.
Okay.
if they worth it. I mean, if the building worth saving,
Yes, still, structure's good, it's good.
structure good, well, we can always cement over them holes,
Okay.
the pipe.
Mhm.
Mike can use it for something else. I mean,
Okay.
just a thought.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I'll be trying to think of something.
Commissioner Bolt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Fonda, just thank you for helping us there at Lanark Village reallocate that old recycling area that was fenced in, and now it's got a new functional use. It's now a depository for all kinds of yard waste. Let me restate that, yard vegetation.
Yes.
And there's a directional sign for the folks on what to put there.
That's
So
correct.
this will help us clear the Oak Street area of all that debris and put it in a receptacle where you guys can get it easily. Appreciate that.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
They
Davis.
close
Okay.
enough, well, let me ask you a question. If them bathrooms, them old bathrooms, if they close enough for the use for changing, like if people take a shower, or take use the bathroom, go to the other and change,
Oh, yes. Yeah, close enough.
think about that.
Okay.
That might, yeah.
Yeah.
Changing station, changing area. Okay.
I mean, anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you got a lot of people come.
Right.
So I think it's definitely a good conversation to be had between now and the next meeting, so we kind of know which direction we might head with it. So thank you for bringing that up today.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Davis while he's here, Commissioners? Thank you for everything you do, and make sure and tell the crew thank you as well.
Will do. Thank you all.
Up next, Ms. Pam Burnell, Emergency Management Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We do not have any action items this morning, but for information, after the weather that we had this weekend, we heard rumors that there was a tornado that touched down or a water spout on Dog Island, so we called the fire chief over there, and in fact, they did have a water spout that took part of a roof off of a home over there.
Wow.
And then we put it out in the county that if anybody had any damages, so the only thing that we really had reported is just minor stuff. But of course, that's up to the homeowner to fix, because this is, it wasn't a declared storm, or nor will it be one.
Yeah, Ms. Pam, I seen that. I received that message you're talking about on my phone, my cell phone. Let me ask you this, just so we know though. If it's not a declared storm or something going on, I mean, I know it's good to be notified and know the damages that have happened during any kind of event. What can we really do with that though, if it's not a declared storm?
We actually send that information to the National Weather Service in Tallahassee.
Okay.
That gives them a little bit better data of
Okay.
What can happen from that kind of wind and that kind of storm.
Okay, sounds good. I just wondered when I first saw the message. So it looks like you guys have been pretty busy, Miss Pam.
Yes, we have, and we've got some more upcoming stuff to do, and then you see we're going to the FIFA conference. The state is wanting to implement a new system, and it's going to be on point base. That we're going to take the training on that and try to get a better understanding of how that is going to relate to this county as far as PA, doing PA in this county.
Okay, sounds good. Just keep us appraised if there's anything we need to know about. Does anyone have any questions for Miss Pam while she's here?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
You said it wasn't a name storm. Wouldn't it have messed up the whole thing?
What do you mean, Commissioner? It's
That's what
when I
insurance is all
say name storm, that is something that the state has already did a local state of emergency on, and that you'd be looking for FEMA reimbursement. Just squalls like that.
Pam, I'll interrupt. That's what insurance is all about.
That's what insurance is for. You're right, Alan. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it can come off there, and some of them storms be big enough to come off and wipe out Apalachicola.
I know, but
A caribou.
yes, sir. But unless it's a
They
declared,
don't have to be named. What I'm saying is they ain't got to be named. They just come off that bill and do it.
if you want money out of the federal government, it better be named.
Yeah, but
Yes,
they
sir.
wrong. They wrong. They be the name that they said we got severe weather coming.
Which I'm not disagreeing that sometimes violent things happen, and they can make declarations after the event. Some of these winter storms come through, these lines of tornadoes come through, and they make a declaration after the fact.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities for that, but just if something comes out and an individual house gets hit, or even a couple of houses, I mean, you better have home insurance. That's your protection.
I know, but some of them things be.
Oh, yeah, just a line of tornadoes can come through, and I'm not certain, and Pam, I really shouldn't be talking because you know more about this than I do, but a line of tornadoes can come through a community and do devastating damage, and there's money available then. I mean, the feds come in and so.
It has to be a certain criteria,
Yeah,
is what
that's
you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to have a certain amount of damages, dollar-wise.
Okay,
Ours is 40-something thousand.
okay. Commissioners, anyone else have a question or concern for Ms. Pam while she's here? Ms. Pam, thank you. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for everything y'all do. Tell everybody we said thank you. Up next, Mr. Eric Lovestrand, Extension Office Director. Is there any? Can you hear us, Mr. Eric? I think, yeah, I think you're still
I think
muted.
you're muted, Eric. No? He's saying no. Okay, now you're unmuted. Go ahead. No, Eric. I don't know why we can't hear you, hearing everybody else.
Okay,
All right, Eric, go ahead.
Eric, can you hear us?
I don't know why we can't hear you, hearing everybody else. I don't know why we can't hear you, hearing everybody else. I don't know why we can't hear you, hearing everybody else. I'll tell you what, Eric, you want to try and log back in, and then when you pop up, we'll let you in? There may be a bad connection. All right, cool.
Okay, so we'll go next to Mr. Ted Mosseller, interim airport manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
I
sir.
don't particularly have any new action items this morning, but I did send in a report of things that are going on at the airport, which are extensive. If you have any questions or discussion, I'm here.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Ted?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to just be clear that the runway lighting system is stable and
Yes,
is
sir.
functioning up to the standards of safety.
It is, but it's patched, and we need, like I stated in the report, we do need to continue the process of ordering and replacing that receiver.
Okay.
So to add to, Ted and I just had a discussion to add to that. So what I'm waiting for from Ted is some kind of proposal
Okay.
that, depending on the cost, I bring to the board for your review, and then we go from there. Ted, did we discuss, who you said you were going to do it?
Well, I can replace it myself if we want to order it. It's a price of, what was the price? I forget now. $3,500, I believe it was.
Well, I mean, we'll discuss this later.
But that's for our meeting tomorrow that we have.
Yeah,
this
so we're going to
scheduled.
discuss, I have a meeting with Ted tomorrow, we're going to discuss this some more, because I always try to take the approach, and I appreciate Ted for trying to save money, but I would always want to make sure someone that's certified gets
Yes,
it
sir.
done. So in case we end up in a bind later, we can rely on somebody, somebody's certification, say, well, they're responsible, they did it.
Understand
I
that.
don't like to put Ted out there, much as he's trying
I
to help.
concur. Oh, yeah.
I don't want him out there being the one people pointing their fingers to is his fault. I don't agree with that.
Okay. On that respect, I did mention the remote control, which has been disconnected and disabled by people. I don't know who did it. I can speculate, but I don't know for sure.
Yep.
I think it was one of the contractors that we were talking about. So
Just need to get it fixed.
we'll discuss that. There's one other item, real quick. Our meeting this afternoon has been canceled because of COVID. You got that message, Michael? With John Collins?
With John Collins, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else, Commissioners?
Just want to be clear,
Yes, sir.
relative to the remote control, controlling the runway lights, you're saying that the pilot-operated mic push-button system is not working, so a
No,
pilot approaching...
that part is working
That's
just
working.
fine.
Okay.
The part I'm talking about, the remote, it's a remote panel that's situated in the FBO office.
I see.
Where they can turn on and off the lights.
By location.
Or disable the radio if something goes awry.
Okay.
But right now, the system is working just fine.
Okay, good.
But I did mention in the report that I have contacted Mike Cates, and the estimate is up to about $1,000 to replace that LED that's causing the main problem. It's, I don't know if you know about LEDs, but they have a little generator in there, like a fluorescent light, and they do create a radio interference, but this one is going berserk. But I have it disconnected.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions or concerns while Mr. Ted's still here?
Don't some of that stuff fall under public safety?
Sir?
Don't some of that stuff fall under public safety with airplane?
The birds,
work,
we
might
did
not.
have a bird strike, but the birds situation, it seems to be back to about normal for this time of year. And of course, nature is nature, and there's not much we can do about that.
I think he was referring to the lighting,
I'm
that you're talking about,
lights.
some of the lighting issues for the runway?
Yes, sir.
How does that affect the pilots, and is it safe for them to land?
Well, right now it's safe.
Okay, that's what he was
Yes, sir.
getting at.
Okay. Keep them safe, man. Ain't no second time around on that.
No, definitely no second time around on that. Thank you, Mr. Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Lovestrand logged back in?
No, so he might be having computer issues on his end, Commissioners, and so if he comes back in, if not, you guys could ask him. I'll have him contact you if you have questions about his report.
Do you need to set up anything to move to planning and zoning?
Look at us. Well, I need to find where the planning and zoning guy got away. You want to
Take 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Set up? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Recess 5 minutes.
The Panhandle Players will present the murder mystery comedy Accidentally Wealthy, written by Earl Lewin and directed by Renee Valentine. You'll laugh your way through this whodunit February 11th through the 13th at the Chapman Theater in Apalachicola. Showtimes are 7:30 Friday and Saturday and 3 p.m. on Sunday. Tickets are $20 each, and you can get them online at panhandleplayers.com or at the door. Don't miss Accidentally Wealthy February 11th through the 13th at the Chapman Theater in Apalachicola. This event is funded in part by the Franklin County TDC.
David Newton. I'm the new primary care physician in town. I moved here from Montana, and I'm currently working at both Weems East and West Clinic. I'm here working as a primary care physician, but I also take care of my patients in the inpatient setting. So if you're hospitalized here at Weems, you'll see me as well. Or if you need to rehab after a significant event and you need to participate in our swing bed program, I'll also be taking care of you. Even though I only work in the Weems Memorial System, I'm actually employed by Tallahassee Memorial Physician Partners. I'm the Franklin County branch. They've established a partnership, which I'm very grateful for, which allows me to be an employee of Tallahassee Memorial and work very closely with the numerous resources that they have, as well as working in the area that I wanted to work in, which is rural family medicine and practice in Apalachicola. Once again, I'm Dr. David Newton. If you have any medical concerns or want to talk to somebody about medical conditions you're experiencing, just give me a call here at Weems and I'd love to take care of you. If you see me out in public, I'll probably be carrying around a little pug named Dr. Pepper. We'd love to talk to you. So just stop and say, hey, what's up? And I'd love to have a conversation with you or just shoot the breeze.
Hi everybody, this is Captain Finn, your favorite captain by the way, and I'm inviting you to tune in on your desktop, computer, or mobile device and watch my new web series, How to Forgotten Coast Like a Local. And let me tell you, I've been exploring this beautiful piece of paradise right here in Franklin County, Florida, and I want to share it with you. Heard about the legend of Tate's Hell? Give you a little tidbit on our great fishing we have here. I've checked out our museums, and I've also put the spotlight on our nightlife. So, tune in, How to Forgotten Coast Like a Local, with your favorite captain. That's me, by the way, Captain Finn. Hope you tune in.
Hi, I'm Carol Landis. I'm a professional realtor in love with St. George Island. When my husband and I and our dogs moved here in 2002, is the beginning of an adventure that has never grown old in a community that is amazing. If you're thinking about moving to St. George Island or investing in our world-class real estate, then this community will be as important to you as the sand and surf.
Well, Kara to me is much more than an agent. She's become a friend, and since we bought the house, we've needed work done, and she knows everybody there is that can help us with that.
One of the key elements for the historical growth and value of St. George Island real estate is the fact that it's a great place to vacation and to live. The beauty of the Gulf of Mexico with its white sand beaches and blue sky has always been a magnet for me. It was love at first sight. As your realtor, I can help educate you on the various aspects of buying and owning coastal properties. From taxes to coastal setback lines to where to find the best oysters, it's all part of being your realtor.
Too often our friends tell us of it being a hardship to buy a house, and the agent was gone as soon as the closing. We've had quite the opposite experience with Kara.
If you're looking to buy or sell real estate on St. George Island, I'd love to work with you. Please call or text me at 850-653-7753.
The Panhandle Players will present the murder mystery comedy Accidentally Wealthy, written by Earl Lewin and directed by Renee Valentine. You'll laugh your way through this whodunit February 11th through the 13th at the Chapman Theater in Apalachicola. Showtimes are 7:30 Friday and Saturday and 3 p.m. on Sunday. Tickets are $20 each, and you can get them online at panhandleplayers.com or at the door. Don't miss Accidentally Wealthy February 11th through the 13th at the Chapman Theater in Apalachicola. This event is funded in part by the Franklin County TDC.
In regards to our swing bed program, and for critical access hospitals, we have these special designations called swing bed, which are inpatient rehab types of programs. We have a nice new physical therapy room with lots of new equipment, as well as occupational therapy. We'd love for you to take advantage of. If you've had something like a joint replacement or some sort of significant hospitalization where you've been weakened, you have a family member, for example, who's had those situations in a different area, and you'd like them close to you so you can visit them or check in on them regularly. We could always offer those services to your family members so you can be close to provide them with emotional and social support.
Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Mr. Morone, before we move on to P and Z, Mr. Eric is on
Yes,
this.
and we
Let's
sound test, we
cover him
sound
quick.
checked, and so he's
Yeah,
good to go.
see if you can get him on there.
He's good to go. All right, Eric, go ahead, sir.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I had that same problem with that laptop, and I mean, last Friday, and I had to switch over to a different one here.
Happens to all of us.
All that to say that I did not have any action items for you in my report today.
Okay.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Eric while he's here? Mr. Eric, thank you for everything you do and for all the programs that run out of your office. On behalf of the residents of Franklin County, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Morone, let's go into the Planning and Zoning Adjustment Board report.
Okay. I presume that, Michael, I guess someone's gonna have the documents up there, whatever they need. I will say that the good news for you commissioners is that you're gonna get a modified version of this report. The meeting lasted over 3 hours. So we can go through it in living detail if we want to, but I think we'll summarize it for you.
I'll catch up. You can begin.
Okay, all right, okay. First item is a request, Community Court, St. George Island, consideration of request for variance to construct a stairway 2.5 or 2.7 feet into the 10-foot side setback. Property size is lot 29, Sea Palm Village, St. George Island. Request submitted by Southeastern Consulting, and they were actually here with Dan. I don't know if Dan's, Southeastern's right there, I'm sorry. All right. So you don't need to stand up right now. So the P&Z made recommends in favor of this thing. It's a hardship in that the stairway needs to be rebuilt to meet the current code. This old stairway was failing and they need to rebuild it on the side. The only place to put the stairway is back where it was, and that's the only secondary access. So P&Z recommends approval.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
So move.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lockley and Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, item number 2, there's a lot of legal description up there. I won't read the whole thing, but you can see it. A consideration request for a variance to construct 9 single-family lots on 11 platted lots. This is in the commercial district of St. George Island. Project size lots 1 through 5, 27 through 38. Those are back to back. The 2 lots on, well, I'm going to summarize. I'm not going to read all that. So essentially, there are no variance needed on Gulf Shore Boulevard or Gulf Beach Drive, and no variance needed on West Pine Street. The variance are needed on the sides, which is consistent with what we've granted other residential developments in the C4. It's a 5-foot variance on either side. The houses are 10 feet apart, and we made a specific condition that they meet the fire code. So this is, while I don't want to use the word shotgun cottages because these are wider than shotgun cottages, because what we've done is the developer, Bill Thomas, who's in the audience, has given up, at my encouragement, a development right on the Gulf Beach Drive side. He had 5 lots. He's shrinking down to 4 houses. And on the West Pine, he had 6 lots. He's shrinking those down to 5 houses. So the houses are slightly wider than would otherwise be allowed because he's losing a house on either development. On the Gulf Beach Drive side, this came up in November at P&Z, and I objected to the November site plan because the November site plan had access off Gulf Beach Drive, admitted for some commercial space, but the access on Gulf Beach Drive required there to be 32 parking places on the Gulf Beach Drive side and people backing out, and I just thought there's already much trouble on Gulf Beach Drive and people complaining about congestion. I really wanted Mr. Thomas to revisit this thing and try and get access off the alley, and so he's done that. Now, admittedly, he's lost the commercial space, but he's got all the access for his Gulf Beach Drive units off, what we call backloaders, you say, off the alley. And so the front will not have any, any parking there from the required parking. So the Gulf Beach Drive will not have an interruption in this area. So I certainly recommend the site plan. I was the one that had it be redrawn, and I'll just say for the record that the initial site plan that was reviewed, that was seen by P&Z but withdrawn by Mr. Thomas, did have some commercial component to it. He had 4 separate 450 square foot units that I was afraid could have been converted to residential. I mean, there was no reason that in the single building it would have stayed commercial. You had a residence above, the owner of the building was gonna own that space down there. To me, it looked like a setup for an Airbnb, and now we're just have more rental units with cars on Gulf Beach Drive, so I didn't really see a benefit to the community. So I recommended Mr. Thomas revisit this thing, and he has done that with the site plan you have in front of you. I recommended the P&Z approval of this thing, and P&Z did on a 3-to-1 vote approve this site plan, approve the variance on the 5-foot side.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just as a supplement to what Mr. Pierce said, the recommendation for approval also carried a specific condition. There would be no driveways on Gulf Beach Drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, no driveways on Gulf Beach or West Pine, correct?
Well, no, because there ended up being a discussion by the developer. His West Pine is not yet, he's not sure if he can meet the septic tank things. The location septic tank's uncertain. So we made a stipulation on West Gulf Beach because that was where all the issue was. It was West Gulf Beach. I mean, he'll try and do what he can on Pine, but it's West Gulf Beach where the stipulation was.
Right. The discussion originally was no driveways off of either West Pine or Gulf Beach. As Mr. Pierce said, the only condition actually approved by Planning and Zoning as a condition to their recommendation was no driveways on Gulf Beach Drive. It's undecided at this point whether or not there would have to be driveways on on Pine Street, but the aspirational goal is for the access to be through the alleyway, backloaded, as Mr. Pierce has said.
Well, the only reason I asked the question is because that's what we're looking at.
Right, that's what you're looking at, and he gave us the right
to in the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was.
I mean, that's the only reason I asked the question.
But right. What you're looking at is a variance request, not a site plan review.
Okay.
So moved.
We have motion to approve, sir?
Yes.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley. Do we have a second? Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley. Sir, it dies for lack of a second.
Mr. Thomas is here if he wants to say anything, but this was a hotly debated item on the agenda. There was we had an over an hour debate there, and as one of the P&Z members made reference to, this is Zone C4. Mr. Thomas could have come in with, he had to get a variance request, but we've approved in other locations 11 shotgun houses on 11 lots, and this is a reduction to 9 houses on 11 lots. So there's a savings of two units, and the savings making the buildings a little bit bigger. Again, Commissioners, this is already Zone C4, so we're not debating the legal ability for the developer to put shotgun cottages in here, and so I was trying to get a site plan that was less intrusive than what could otherwise be there.
So, Attorney Shore, where do we proceed from here? Does it have to be either, there wasn't a motion, enough motions made to take a vote. So,
Well, the motion has died for lack of a second, as you have said. I think I would need some input from the board members to find out what the issue is, because from what I understand of basically 30 years of prior practice, this is not quite the exact standard that the prior board has approved for, and I've never called them the shotgun houses. They're more like BB guns in my book, but the variances that are being requested are consistent with prior board policy in approving these, and I'll just go with the word shotgun houses, because that's what everyone is familiar with. What I sensed from the debate at P&Z, and may or may not be the sense of the discussion here, is the policy debate of whether or not to have C4, which allows for a pure residential use within commercially zoned property. But this board has essentially for 30 years allowed that process, and right now the current rules and regulations have provided for residential uses within the C4 district. So unless the board is wanting to go back and somehow discuss that policy decision, but I would point out that when the overlay was originally created in 2018, it essentially did away with, for the first time in close to 30 years, the ability to have pure residential. It actually had a requirement for commercial on the first floor and then the residential on the second floor, but the board went back and revisited and just recently, and I think it was in 2020, amended the overlay to go back to what had been the prior policy for decades, which is a C4 zoning category that allows pure commercial, pure residential, or a mixed use. And what's being presented here is consistent with the board's prior policies, which is why planning and zoning, I recommended that planning and zoning basically go with I joined Mr. Pierce's recommendation for approval, because the site plan for the variances is consistent with the prior policies of this board. So, I mean, for that reason, I would also join with Mr. Pierce this morning in recommending approval, because it's consistent with what we've been, or what the board has been doing. So, if there are any questions that the board has for me, I'll be more than happy to try and, have that discussion and provide a response to whatever your questions may be.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, Alan, you got 11 lots, but he's only utilizing 9. Where's the other two?
No, he's utilizing all 11. He's just losing density.
He's redrawing the lot lines and making the lots wider?
Well, he's not officially redrawing the lot, but he's merging lots and building 4 houses on 5 lots on one side and 5 houses on the
lots wider.
Yes, you could say that. You could say that. You could say that. Yes.
I mean, I could say that, but is that what he's doing?
He's using he's building across lot lines because he owns all 5 lots.
Right.
So he's building across lot lines.
Essentially making those lots wider.
Yes. He's using all his development capacity.
But he still needs a setback.
On the side, yes, on the sides.
Why is that if he's making the lot lines wider?
Because the houses are slightly wider. I mean, he doesn't want a 15-foot wide house, no, a shotgun cottage by the 36 or 42, whatever it is on the beach side, or 15-foot wide houses on a 25-foot wide lot. He's building a 20-foot wide house. And so the houses are a little wider, so it's a different perspective from the road. And Mr. Thomas is here, he can probably describe it better. The perspective is different, but the houses, in order to be different, the house is slightly wider, so that's why you end up with an encroachment on the sides, because the houses are slightly wider than the other 15-foot wide houses that the board has approved in every other location. He's trying to.
So in the 25-foot lots where there's skinny minis, I'm gonna call it skinny minis.
Right.
Are they all granted 5-foot setbacks into the?
Yes, every single one of them. Yes, every single one of them. So you have 42 lots in a row. You have a 15-foot wide house in between each. And also, all 42 of those lots over time have gotten a 5-foot variance on each one of them. Yes.
And you still got a 10-foot between one house and the other.
Yes.
So you're giving up 5 foot, but you're maintaining 5 on this and 5 on that, which creates a 10-foot, which is supposed to allow
the fire code. Yes.
I mean, and if I could, on the fire code issue, that was also something I had brought up during the P&Z meeting, because there were some issues with the shotgun houses on the Gulf front, which involved basically the fire department came back to the board and the planning, or the Board of Adjustment years ago, and they complained about, staircases and also HVACs that were set within that 10-foot, and it was creating, fire safety issues. But in this case, we discussed that at the board meeting. Mr. Pierce said there's been some changes in the fire code, and so the recommendation was that as long as, there's a compliance with the fire code, then the recommendation for approval would go forward without a restriction of prohibiting any, permanent structures within that 10-foot setback. So I think it's reasonable to defer to whatever the state fire code requires and not impose any local restrictions. But I don't know if that answers your question, Commissioner Pierce, or Commissioner Parrish, but, well, both start with the letter P. But
Commissioner Parrish, in answer to your initial question, all the development rights are being utilized on these 11 lots. There are no more buildings going to be built on these 11 lots. It's going to be 9 houses on 11 lots.
Yes.
I appreciate your perspective, Attorney Schuler, information of which I really didn't have in depth until now. Can you talk with me about the commercial issues that are there at St. George Island and the need for preserving commercial environments and business opportunities and locations for businesses there. And this property, I've heard some comments that this property encroaches on the commercial opportunities in St. George Island. Can I get an education on that point?
Well, I'll do it. I mean, Commissioner Bull, this property is zoned commercial, no doubt about it, zoned commercial. This property actually is high enough grade that you could build on grade, which is unusual in the commercial district. And so, if you were to try and find a commercial space, one of the limitations, one of the costs, and this was talked about at great length at P&Z, in the commercial area in St. George Island, is that most of the commercial area you have to elevate in order to meet flood requirements. You have to elevate. Doc Myers is a perfect example of a restaurant with all the kitchen areas up. You're eating down all the kitchen areas up. But anyway, elevating buildings is very expensive and usually detrimental to the utilization of commercial space.
I see.
People just don't want to climb stairs. In this case, it's on grade, but it's his prerogative, the developer's prerogative. We have allowed the C4 zoning in this location. We've allowed the overlay to be amended so that you can still have residential. So I can't say he can't do that. In this site, yeah, could you have commercial space? You could. I will say that because of the alley in the middle of the block, if you had commercial space, you would most likely, and this is what I objected to and the community objected to, you would have had commercial parking on Gulf Beach Drive with people pulling in and out. And that was a big negative for the community. They did not want to have that space, that traffic back and flow. And so that's one of the impediments of St. George Island, is that you have to elevate. Now here you don't, admittedly, but it's that parking issue. And parking is expensive. We had a long debate about that. You know, we require a parking standard of one parking space for every 200 square feet of commercial space. So in 1,800 square feet of commercial space, you need 19. I mean, I'm sorry, over 1,800. You need well, you had 34, so I'm getting my numbers mixed up. 32 total. 32. He needed for 32 total commercial parking places. That's a lot of space, and all that space. I mean, it's his prerogative. Gulf Beach Drive is a public road. He could pull in and out of Gulf Beach Drive, but I just thought this is a bad idea. Mm-hmm. I'm getting off track. So commercial parking is an impediment to building commercial space. Elevating a building is an impediment to commercial space. I mean, people just don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And then the absence of central sewer is an impediment. Now, if you want a restaurant, you would have to have probably a whole lot reserved by itself just for the drain field. Mm-hmm. So those three things, one of which the county controls, we could do away with our parking standards. We could say, okay, because there's a need for parking, or the need for commercial space on St. George Island, we're going to change our parking standards. So instead of one parking place for every 200 square feet of floor space, one parking place for every 1,000 square feet of floor space. So that we just shrink the number of cars that you need, the number of land you need available. But guess what? People are going to come to that shop and they're going to park somewhere. They're either going to park in the parking lot for tourists for the St. George Island for the beach, or they're going to park on the side of the road, or they're going to park on the residential area. I mean, so there's a cost if you try and encourage commercial development by doing away with your parking standards. There's a cost, and it's going to be borne by somebody. You don't have much change with the flood requirements. I mean, they have to be elevated, and that's been an impediment to other people building commercial space on St. George Island. No one wants to walk upstairs to shop. Mm-hmm. They just don't do it. And then the third thing, central sewer versus septic tanks. All of St. George Island is on septic tanks, aerobic systems, and you know, that just is it occupies space. And could the county get involved in that issue? Sure, we could. We could say, okay, Gulf Beach Drive, which is 200 feet wide, we're going to have some sort of generalized disposal area here, and let people in the commercial area utilize that, so they don't have to have this burden of having a big drain from their property. But that comes at a risk to the community. All of a sudden, now we're responsible for maintenance of that. And you know, I don't want to get in there. Mm-hmm. But those are the three big things which interfere with the development of commercial space on St. George Island. And it's a big cost. David Duncan, a P&Z member who's also a builder, was very eloquent at the meeting. I mean, he just said, and he's in the building business. He said, look, this project and this developer is theoretically a competitor of mine, but I recognize, and he made the motion to support this thing, because it's just the citizens and the community don't realize what, you know, the cost that you have to bear when you're in the development business, especially in commercial development. You want a return on your money. Throw on top of this, you really have a seasonal economy out there. And the economy is being driven, this is a dangerous thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, it's being driven by the tourist market. The tourists are down there and they spend more money than the residents do. And the residents have an idea of a commercial space that would be beneficial to them, but they're being overrun, and I use that term specifically, overrun by the tourist economy. The tourists are there. There was a debate about perhaps there are too many there because some of these houses are being used Instead of sleeping three bedrooms, they're now being turned into 6 bedrooms, and that's a distinct issue that needs to be addressed because it is affecting a lot of things on the island. It's affecting how many cars are there. It's affecting the function of the septic tanks. It's a valid concern. But that addresses all of the island, not just the central area. But those 3 things, Commissioner, the parking, the septic tank utilization, and the elevation requirements are an impediment to commercial development, and those aren't going to change anytime soon. So if a developer is looking at accessing, and I say this without a whole lot of discussion with developers, but I've had enough. If a developer wants to access the market on St. George Island, the thing to do is build an East Point, because everybody from the island has to go to East Point anyway. And you are going to see later on in my report more interest of commercial development at East Point, and it's only beginning because East Point has sewer and water. East Point has lower elevation requirements than St. George Island, and East Point land is slightly cheaper, so it's easier to put those parking spaces on there. So East Point is going to become the commercial center for St. George Island as well as the county. I mean, that's just the direction it's going in. And so you have to ask yourself, how much space do we need to save on St. George Island under the conditions which we have now, some imposed by the federal government, being the flood insurance? How much space do we need on St. George Island for development that may never show up? Now, we have agreed to stop rezoning rezoning property on St. George from C4, so whatever is C2 is going to be C2 until the board changes that policy. And there is some out there. Not as much as there used to be, but there is some out there. That's still vacant. I mean, no one is coming forward trying to develop that. You have Oyster Cove Restaurant, a building that is built, it's a restaurant. It's been vacant for 2 or 3 years because the market is just not what people want it to be. It's very expensive to build commercial space, and the return is not consistent. I mean, it's just, that's what's driving this market. And again, Mr. Thomas is here, he's a builder, he can say this better than I can. But that's why, I look at this and you want to see activity on St. George Island. Yes, this is filling in space that could be commercial. It's also giving a place for people to park and walk around to what is commercial without driving, because St. George Island is a vehicular community. I'm sorry, there's a bike path, but if you live on the East End or you live on the plantation, you're driving to the center of the island to do something. So if you had a viable commercial space and people utilizing it, you might have more congestion and more problems, because in order to get there, you have to drive there. I mean, if you're in the old subdivision, yeah, you could ride your bike down the bike path, but if you're in the plantation or down the East End, you're most likely going to drive. You're most likely going to add more cars. And so here you have 9 buildings with 9 houses of people who could park their cars and then walk around and never drive their cars again if they're just using this commercial district, because they're in it. And that has its own value. Now, it's not the value that the residents want. The value the residents want is more commercial space. And I will certainly gladly look at site plans and promote commercial space, but you can't make someone build it if they don't think the market's there. My last thing I'll say was the last commercial building built I wasn't involved in that. It was during some P&Z phase when I wasn't going to meetings. Is the commercial building is under construction now. That's a sort of it is a tourist shop. It's a t-shirt shop. And there was complaints about that because people, the residential community has a need for some commercial space that isn't right now, apparently, and I say because no one's offered, isn't financially feasible. I mean, there's a reason why no one's built a CVS pharmacy on St. George Island. There's a reason why some of these standard commercial buildings and uses that you have in communities isn't on the island. There's a reason for it. It's not economically feasible. That's a very long-winded answer.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I appreciate this thoughtful information and education, and now that I am more thoroughly educated and have really given this a good perspective thought, I will second the motion that's on the floor right now.
There is currently a motion on the floor.
Because it died?
It died for lack of a second.
I'll stand by.
Well, I make the motion again.
Second.
Okay.
We're good to go.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Lockley, second by Commissioner Bolt to approve.
To
Is that
approve.
correct?
Yep.
Now, discussion. Trying to find somewhere to jump in here because we got started pretty quickly. So I was on the opposite side of the vote to change the C4 zoning back to what it's always been relatively when the board changed it back. But there were good reasons that the board undertook to change it back. One was all the residences that are currently in the business district on the island, had they been damaged during Hurricane Michael or any future storm, they would not have been able to rebuild. that would have been a taking by an act of government. We basically made all those houses be non-conforming uses in the business district. And again, this is not something new that the board passed, that we're trying to make residences be in the business district. It's been this way for decades. It reverted back to that. That was the decision this board made. And that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I voted for or against it, the board made the decision. So I agree with what's been said this morning. If we want to change the policy, then we need to look at the policy. But as the policy stands, it is the policy of the board. So I just want to make sure, I mean, there's people that, I've talked to people on both sides of this issue, but at the end of the day, I don't own the property. I'm not looking to develop a business on the island or build a residence, you know. And I'm not saying that people from the island feel this way, but I've heard since I've been on the commission, somehow people think that we, the commission, are putting in place what should be built in areas. As far as, you know, someone has a piece of property that come to me and say, I want to develop it. Okay, good, I want to see a McDonald's there. If it's not a McDonald's, I'm not going to approve it. That's not the way it works. It doesn't work that way at all. I don't own the property. You know, you own the property, you want to build something, bring the site plan if it fits in our policies and procedures. If it, you know what I mean? If it, there are procedures in place for a reason. You know, and sometimes it's not really, am I happy with all of them? No. But I'm part of a 5-member board. We're doing our best to follow the policies and procedures we put forward so residents, people in our community can see consistency from us and not haphazardness. So anyway, I just, before we voted on this, I want to make people aware and know, you know, do I like everything about it? No, but I do like some things about it. I like that there's no backing into and pulling out of Gulf Beach Drive. You know, I like those aspects of it. I like that, you know, some of the things that are being considered, like Mr. Pierce said, you know, working with Mr. Thomas, they had one site plan. He said, well, you know, I really don't like this, this, and this. Can we reconsider? And they did. They did reconsider. They come back with a whole new site plan. Well, you know, I can't just draw a site plan up on my piece of paper and hand it to the county. There's a cost incurred to redo everything, you know, and that has to be considered by this board. Now, does that mean that everybody that comes before us gets approved? No. But, you know, we need to be, and we have been being more consistent in our decisions. So, because that's fair and right by the people. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
One comment, Mr. Chairman. You know, Alan, as you're talking about people wanting commercial, well, you can't hardly develop these 25-foot lots if you only own one lot.
No, you're not.
Because you can't put a building there, you can't provide parking. When you have multiple lots like this, you do have that potential. And as you were saying about the tourism industry being seasonal, well, I'm sorry, but it's pretty much not seasonal no more. There's people here year round. So I see that as a plus for someone that wanted to do commercial. Having said that, I agree with what the chairman has said here on you know, people being allowed to do what they want to do. You know, you would just hope that people that have multiple lots would actually look at doing some kind of commercial development, but that's their choice, as the chairman said. That was my comment.
Any more discussion? I will say this, I'm looking forward to maybe some future developments in the commercial district on the island of being truly commercial properties. I am looking forward to that, and I do believe it's going to happen. All right, no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I oppose.
I oppose.
It is a 3-2 vote that passes 3-2.
Okay, the next item is consideration of requests at 125 Angus Morrison is on Alligator Point. Consult a 2-car metal carport 20 feet into a 25-foot setback. Private Skies Lot 2, Block E, Alligator Harbor subdivision. Mrs. Glenn has called and she's had some medical issues, so she's not on the phone, but I did recommend in favor of P&Z, and I'm gonna do it here also. She has some medical issues, and this is a necessary improvement, and it's not it's on a dead-end street, so we recommend, planning and zoning recommends in favor of a 20-foot setback for a carport on this existing house.
So move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt, second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I oppose.
It's a 4-1 vote.
Okay, the next item is a sketch plan approval, and this, and I told planning and zoning, I'll tell you all also, this is, I almost want to say a heritage act, because this thing, this is development in the plantation, St. George Island Plantation. The plantation, by most people's consideration, is all built out, but in fact there was some 30 acres of land, or however large the site plan was, at the end of near the end of the island that was never platted. And this is the last remaining tract of land in the plantation that is going to go through subdivision plat approval. Its development rights were created in the amendment to the 9th Amendment, and I don't know when that happened. I was here for that, but it happened 1993, so it was a while ago. And why it wasn't built out then, I can't say. Phase 1 was done then, but Phase 2 was held back for some reason. But this represents now the last plat that will be created in the plantation. And you see the lot layout there. It is for, I forget how many lots. It's on 33 acres of land, and I'll defer to Mr. Garlick, who's here, to, I guess, 31 lots. They are not all 1 acre. They're not 1 acre in size, but they are. There's open space, and they're compressed, so they meet the density and they meet the development rights that are set aside in the 9th Amendment. I recommend in favor of it. Planning and zoning approves the sketch plan.
If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
The only question I have, sir, is
Dan Garlick for the record, by the way.
Is looking, and I don't know what should be done different, but I just want to ask the question. So this is the sketch plat, this is original, so the actually after they do the plat, it'll come back to us? What?
Well, this is a sketch plat. You'll see because it's a 3-phase sketch, I forget the middle phase, the last phase is final plat. This is property that was never platted, so this is undeveloped, unplatted property that goes to that complete development approval.
Okay.
Our next step would go to preliminary plat.
That's the preliminary plat.
Okay.
And basically what we'll be doing, if this is approved, then our next step is to go into surveyor, engineering, regulatory. Okay. We got water management district permits to get.
Right.
We got to get permits from Department of Health. We got all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So that would be where the heavy lifting is going to occur. If the sketch plat is approved, then that's our next step. We won't be back until we have that information into play. And at that point, if you recommend approval, then we would go to final.
Yeah. The only reason I ask, and I'm glad you answered that, the only reason I ask is I was very looking down like, this is 29 years ago. You know what I mean? Anyway, just make sure we're doing our due diligence, but if there's going to be several other parts of this process, then I understand. But I did want to make sure that that was understood here today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In other words, if we did approve it today, that it's over and done with. There's other things to do.
Yeah, and basically this is like this is phase 2 of a, as Alan said, this is the last piece of chunk out there that is available. This will be the actual plan unit development will not change. We have to adhere to the provisions of that because that is the ordinance.
Okay.
So there's several items in there, and I won't belabor the issue, but it goes through parking, stormwater, wastewater, the whole thing. We have to do all that stuff before we'll come back with a preliminary plat.
So, Mr. Pierce, since this was originally part of the PUD, if it does move forward, I think all the commission needs to get a copy of that original PUD so we can know what we're looking at.
Okay, I'll defer to Dan to find a copy. Is that the Bob Size Cut PUD?
I got a copy here.
Bob Size Cut PUD?
But would that not be appropriate?
Yeah.
So we're knowing what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
As we've not done the sketch plat yet, and there's gonna be 31 lots on
33
acres.
Right.
But they're not gonna be 1 acre lots.
Correct.
What is the rest of, is?
Open space.
Open space?
Open space.
And what is the 2 blocks? 31 lots and 2 blocks. What is 2 blocks?
I'm not.
I don't know why this.
Those 2 blocks on the what it is that the lots, one lot will be 51 feet wide, The other's gonna be 41 feet wide. We have 7.5-foot setbacks, 15 feet space between the buildings. Buildings be 26 and 36. The idea is to give some texture, I guess you would say, in just having straight houses all the way across. That's the whole idea of those two
Well, Danny's
blocks.
asking why we have 2 blocks widens all this. I guess one block's on one side of the road, Commissioner Parrish, one block's on the other side. I
I'm
mean,
sorry, is that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
the blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One side,
So you're developing 2 different blocks.
Well,
but it's
One on
all,
one side of the road, one on the other side of the road. Is that
But-
where the 2 blocks come from?
yeah, but it's all still gonna be the same sketch plat. Still be the same
I
type.
understand the same sketch plan. I just never seen it wrote up that way with 2 blocks. I'm saying, what is 2 blocks for?
Yeah, and I would think that'd be
Is that
more for
concrete
the.
blocks or
No.
cardboard blocks? Or, you know, I mean, it just didn't make no sense
I understand.
to me why.
Well, you know, all the time you'll have Unit 5, Block 20, Lot
Right.
whatever. That's the same situation there. So I guess it'd be more of a legal term. Mike
Just the way
may
it
be
was
able to.
written up, 2 blocks. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm saying, what is 2 blocks?
I mean, I will say, Dan, look
You
at
have
No concrete
31
blocks.
lots on 2 different blocks. Is that correct?
I mean, I almost think that you really don't have 2 blocks here, because I'm looking at this, you're all got them numbered sequentially. There's no block A, 1 through 10, and block B, this is all, so I kind of wonder whether really, in fact, are 2 blocks out there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where you got that from either. I was just defining what
I've
you're.
never seen that.
And
Two
it's,
blocks,
and it's not
Well,
really here.
The last, I haven't seen it in a long time, you get blocks when you're platting lots of things, so like summer camp. Summer camp, that subdivision had, multiple roads and multiple lots and blocks, because they had, basically each road was a zonal subdivision, that was block A and block B.
Right.
In this case here, I do kind of wonder whether they use the word block inappropriately, because I'm just looking at it, there's no block A listed, no block B, so I think really, unless there's some reason to have 2 blocks, it's really just
Yeah.
one
You could
subdivision.
probably look at this as being Sykes PUD Phase 2, and there's gonna be 31 units in it.
Yeah.
In the PUD, is there a specific size of these lots?
No,
There's nothing defined in the
No,
PUD as
that's
a
our-
lot will contain so many square feet.
correct. The reason for that is allowing the flexibility in the plan unit development. Of course, in this one here, you're gonna have 33% of open space that's gonna render it pervious. It will not be impervious. In that area, it defines what you can do there. It basically means that you can put walkways, stormwater management, you gotta maintain the landscaping, that's all in that plan unit development. And those are the goals that we have to meet when we go to the next plat, which would be the preliminary plat. We have to come and demonstrate that kind of stuff.
And that's the reason you were asking for us to
Yes.
get a copy of that, so
Yes.
we know what's contained in that PUD.
Yes, sir.
And it's public record and
The
recorded.
board adopted it, I mean, it was 23 years ago.
Oh, you just wasn't the same board.
It was for all of our time.
That's, yeah,
Same owner.
there you go. Okay.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion, Commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
That's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, before I go any further, just remind the public who's on the line that there's a public hearing scheduled for 10:30, and I guess you want to get to it now, or what do you want to do? So the next things I ought to go pretty fast, are just dock approvals, but there is a public hearing, we realize, and we're running a little bit late, so I just wanted to make the listening public aware of that.
Okay. So now we're on critical shoreline applications?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll say all of these were recommended approval, so I'll read these fairly straightforward. I think they're all unanimous too. First one is 4 by 408 foot access, an 8 by 8 terminal platform, properties east of St. George Island Plantation. This is submitted by the Plantation Owners Association for the benefit and use of the plantation. It's a very, very long walkway, but if someone wants to haul a kayak out there, that's how you get to the open water, so that's why it has to be so long. P&Z recommend approval.
Just on the base?
Yes,
excuse me,
Bayside.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Bayside.
yes.
So moved.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lachlan, Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That's unanimous.
Next one is 501 East Bayshore Drive. This is submitted by the Baptist Church. This is also for a pier and kayak launch on their property, which is also on the bayside, much closer to in the middle of the island admittedly, for lots 8 through 12, Block 30, St. George Island Beaches, Unit 4. Again, the Baptist Church submitted this.
So moved, what about?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we make that contingent upon receiving the DEP?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir, yeah.
Permit, because that's not stated in.
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
So the motion needs to be,
Would you amend your motion, Commissioner Hawkins, to reflect that language?
Yes.
All right. amend your
Yes, sir, I
second.
will.
So the motion and the second have been amended. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, the next one is 311 River Road, and again, Commissioner Parrish is correct. The core permit's been issued, the DEP is not, so this need to be contingent upon getting the DEP permit in hand. This is for a boat ramp, not a boat ramp, a boat lift in area for a private single-family lot.
So move with the contingent upon the permits being issued.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, a motion was by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt, to approve contingent upon the FDEP permit. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Next one is 512 River Road. This is down the street, so to speak, from that other one. Again, the core, in this case, the DEP permit has been issued, the core is not, so we need to do contingent upon the core being issued. But again, this is a single-family residential dock and boat lift for a single-family lot on River Road.
So move contingent upon the COE permit being issued.
Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt, contingent upon the Corps of Engineers permit. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Next one is 1512 Alligator Drive, again for a single-family dock and boat lift. This will be in the Alligator Harbor. The core permit's been issued, the DEP permit has not been issued, but P&Z recommends approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt. Commissioner Bolt, is that contingent upon the FDEP permit being issued?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And second by Commissioner Lockley.
I'm in line.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. All right, sir.
Okay, next is the zoning and land use change application. These all are going, the recommendation of P&Z is for you all to hold a public hearing. So you're not approving anything today except holding a public hearing at some point in the future. And there are 3 requests, all in the East Point area. The first one is 79 Otter Slide Road, request to turn 4 acres of land from residential commercial on the land use and R4 to C4 on the zoning. And you see the parcel there. It's directly across the street from the existing industrial park that East Point has off of Otter Slide Road. It's bounded by unplatted property. To the north you have Wilderness Ridge Road, and then ultimately Otter Slide serves as the back door for a Magnolia Bay development. But it's 4 acres there, and it's in an area that you're going to see more commercial development, I believe, because it's across the road from the industrial park. So you got a lot of traffic up there already.
And they're just wanting to hold a public hearing?
Yes.
All right, pleasure of the board. Motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion?
Man, you want to do all 3 of these at once?
Well, the 3 different locations, Commissioner, it won't take too long.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, the next one is 478 Avenue A. This is a request to turn some residential property from single-family R4, which allows you to have industries, to R8 multifamily. And in this location, there is some R8. There's the map. The 1.4, that's my scrawly handwriting, is the proposal. Behind it, you can see, is some R8 property that's not been developed. That R8 was a remnant of the old Cornerstone development that never went through, but the R8 zoning stayed. So you have some R8 in this block already. This current proposal is going to access it off Avenue A, but if the residents out there, are aware that R8 could be coming. So R8 is your 1 unit per 8 acres. It would be a density that hopefully would be affordable. Now, we of course don't know. We don't know exactly what's going to be turned out there. But the recommendation from P&Z was to change this site, have a public hearing to go from R4 home industry to R8 multifamily.
They want a public hearing on it.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion?
Yes, Alan, what did you say R8 is?
One unit per, 1 unit per, sorry, 8 units per acre.
Yeah,
Okay,
8 to 1.
You had me going there.
I'm
You
sorry.
got with an acre on one of these things.
I'm
You
sorry.
were saying
Yeah,
1
sorry.
unit per 8 acres.
Yeah, no,
You had me
I'm sorry,
confused
I had it
there.
back, but eight units an acre. So at some point, commissioners, you have an, we had an R7, which would drop down to 10 units an acre, and now you have an R8, which is 8 units an acre. Those densities are awful close together. At some point, we ought to see whether we need 2 separate zoning categories, but that's a discussion for another day,
And this is all just for public hearing.
just for
Yes.
public hearing.
Now, when they, Mr. Chairman,
Yep,
so when they're asking to have this rezoning done, then all the adjoining property owners receive a certified
Yes.
letter, whether they oppose or
Yes.
object? Okay.
They'll be notified, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
And the last public hearing request is for 16 North Franklin Street. And this is to go from R4, single-family home industry, to C4, which allows for commercial uses. So the switch is here, by going to for R4, you had to have a home there, and C4, you don't have to have a home. So you are, the change here is this is going to expand the commercial district in East Point north of the power line for the first location. That dotted line there is the power line, and at this point, all the commercial development in East Point that's zone commercial is power line in south. And so here we're going to be seeing creeping northward of the power line for a proposed commercial development. This is right across from Taylor's. Those of you driving through East Point, the property right on the north side of 98 has been cleared off. This is not the property, but this is right behind that. Anyway, this would be a commercial site, and I think you'll probably see more in the future of commercial development moving north in different areas in East Point because of the things I already talked about. East Point has sewer and water available, less flood requirements, lower cost of land. I just see it happening. But this is a request for you all to hold a public hearing to see what the community thinks about it.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion, commissioners, before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. And I will say, because you and I discussed it about that particular property, and it wasn't pertinent to the vote, but the things that are already on that piece of property have to do with the Duke Energy project on St. George Island. Duke is asking, because it's their power line anyway, they're leasing the easement from him, but the part he's wanting to potentially try to build on is Elbow that goes north of that. But the stuff that's there now is in relation to working with Duke, with the project they're doing on the island, replacing power poles and all that stuff. That way they have somewhere they can store stuff instead of doing it over here by the airport. Because if they do it over here, they have to bring it across 2 bridges to get to the island. East Point, they just have to bring it across 1. So. All right. Didn't we earlier amend the agenda to have another thing before this 10:30?
No, after 10:35.
After 10:30.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. Okay, so next we're moving to a public hearing, correct?
Yes. Now, I am not as familiar with this as Mark is, although I know what it's about. This is the change in public hearing for the PUD for the Gulf of St. James Bay, I believe, isn't it, Michael?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So this is the public hearing. And what? Yeah, I guess. Yes, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Well, Mark's coming in, just that was my last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Courtney's back, so the community will not be terrorized by me anymore on planning and zoning stuff.
So you're checking out, huh?
On planning and zoning, you got it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was it.
Say it isn't so.
On planning and zoning, it is.
Yeah. I agree.
Wait, is that Bougie Day, Howard?
You got a two-seat truck?
Yes.
Lord.
No, I
Be
appreciate the
careful.
opportunity to serve you all as a planning and zoning.
Be careful
but-
what you wish for.
But it's, I think, you know, it's an opportunity for new people to say, to learn, and to be out there. So I'm gonna let someone else.
Yes.
So Mark, I wasn't familiar with the details of what the public hearing's about.
Yeah, we just opened the public hearing for this land use change.
Okay. This is a proposal for a large-scale land use change over at, near, adjacent to St. James Bay. It's the area, approximately 79 acres, around the nursing home over there. And basically what this is to allow residential development there, both multifamily and single-family houses. Since it is a large-scale development or land use change, the process is, this is a transmittal hearing. Basically, y'all, if y'all choose to approve it, we will send it up to the state of Florida with, you know, all the background information. They will review it and send back comments, and then y'all will hold another public hearing to either approve or disapprove it. And y'all will be required to address any comments that the state might have.
So an approval today, Mr. Currington, is gonna basically send it to the state to keep the process going.
Right, right.
Okay.
This would not be the final approval.
Okay.
This is basically just sending it up to the state for them to make comments on.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Well, how long that would take with the state?
We just, you know, we just did one back for this, the public property rights amendment to, and it takes, we just got the comments back from them, I think in late December. So it takes it'll probably be like a couple of months by the time we get it out to the state and they get everything back to us.
So since it's a public hearing, Attorney Short, we need to call for public comments first. Does anyone in the room wish to comment about this matter? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name for the record.
Excuse me, my name is John Green. I'm one of the owners at St. James Bay. So we are the applicant today, and I just wanted to let you know I'm here to answer any questions
Okay.
if anything comes up.
Okay.
But again, the objective here is this 79 acres. A large percentage of it is wet.
Sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But this is the public comment. There's going to be a time for you to speak. Yes, sir. Sorry.
I believe Commissioner Jim Waddell is on the line to speak, but I believe he's with the applicant.
So, Mr. Roan, could you ask if there's anybody on the line that public that wishes to speak about this matter before we take it up?
Okay. Double check. Is there anyone else on the line that would like to speak on this? Mr. Waddell, I see your hand raised. We will get to you right after
Yes.
we close public hearing.
Yes.
Public comments.
Yeah.
No, it's the only other person is Mr. Evan Thomas, and no, he has not indicated he'd like to speak.
Okay. So with no public comment, we can move over and let the applicant
Yes, sir.
speak. Okay, sir, please. I'm sorry.
And sir, as you stand, I'm going to open up so Mr. Waddell could also speak and join with you, okay?
Sounds good.
Since it's being recorded, can you please restate your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is John Green.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
So we have a contract to purchase the 79 acres adjacent to St. James Bay at the west end of the property. It surrounds the nursing home that's St. James Bay Nursing Facility that's there. We've got sewer, we've got water. Probably 2/3 of the property's wetland, and it's never going to get developed anyway. So we saw this as an ideal location to provide some workforce housing and some apartments. At St. James Bay, we've got at any given time between 35 and 40 employees. And I think the rehab facility at any given time has 15 to 20. So you've got 50-ish employees that would have the ability to walk to work, which I think would be really interesting in this day and age. Again, there's sewer there, water there, the road's already there. We also have a neighborhood of some single-family homes that we're proposing, and these would be on 50-foot lots, municipal sewer and water. The lots are actually bigger than a lot of the lots at St. James Bay. 8-foot side yards versus 5 is what we're thinking, which again exceeds the side yards at St. James Bay. And some of the architectural requirements at St. James Bay are very prohibitive from a cost standpoint. We've had, I think, 8 houses, new construction houses, go up there in the last few months, as Mr. Bolt knows, and they're in the $350,000, $400,000 range. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people in the housing market that can't afford a $350,000, $400,000 home. So we see this as an opportunity to bring in some single family in that $250,000 price range. We also show on the site plan that we've submitted 48 apartments, which again, we think will be a great opportunity to have some nice, clean rental housing. We lose employees at St. James because they have nowhere to live. We've talked to the sheriff's office. They have the same problem. This could be a real nice solution to some of the rental market, housing market. It's just, there's just not much out there. So as Mark has stated, this is part of the process, I understand, and I'm happy to answer any more questions if you have them.
So I know we're sending this potentially just to the state to send back to us. So what I'm hearing is that you're potentially looking at doing some single-family homes, some multifamily homes, and or places that would provide for workforce housing because they're apartments, not properties that can be bought and flipped and, you know what I mean?
No, we're
In other
good.
words, that's, okay, sounds good. Sounds good to me. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Yes, sir.
Usually when we do something like this.
I'm sorry?
I say usually when we do something, it's a good thing you're doing.
Excuse me, Commissioner. I didn't even know that thing had
It's got a timer.
a timer.
It's like the millennium clocks all over.
I'm telling you what.
They don't have that third digit.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
That's different.
I know on some of the projects we have done, the county have asked for a little something back in return. Do y'all plan on doing that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question, sir.
Like
Are you talking about giving a donation for like?
in that affordable house thing?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yes.
offered to do that. Yeah.
I know you're talking about affordable house, and I like the idea. But the county usually ask for, we trying to help, we trying to get a little help for affordable housing.
Well, we think this is a good opportunity to provide some support. But when you look at the housing market, you got affordable, but then you got just people who are just working. They can't find a place to live. So we think this is an ideal opportunity for that. And then we've agreed as part of that to make a donation to the affordable housing program with the county.
Okay.
All right, so we've heard public comments. We've had from him, so now it's back to the commission, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, pleasure of the board. Or do you have anything to discuss?
Just for the record, Commissioner Bolton and I had a conversation about this particular subject matter. In my opinion, he does have a voting conflict, not because the subject matter inures to his special benefit or detriment, but because he does have an ongoing contractual relationship with the developer in the form of a long-term lease. There's a provision in Florida statutes that these long-term contractual obligations do create at least a potential voting conflict. So I've advised him not to either make a motion or vote on this particular subject matter. as I've done in the past with other subject matters involving St. James Bay.
So he's actually abstaining then?
Yes, sir, and then Mr. Morone is left, he's over there. He'll prepare the appropriate form to file with the state agency.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any more discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That is unanimous, 4-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And Jim, I'm going to go ahead and mute you back since there was no need for you to speak. Thank you.
And now we're going to go to this comprehensive plan amendment. Is that correct? The public hearing for it? All right, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, this is a adoption hearing for an amendment to the comprehensive plan that's required by the state legislature last year, passed one, that we had to include language about respecting private property rights. And back late last year, we had the transmittal hearing. We sent it off to the state. The only comment they had was that this amendment had to cover all decisions the county commission makes, not just ones relating to land use. So we've made that change in the proposed ordinance, and basically, if in my opinion, this is sort of like a motherhood and apple pie. You know, it's really not going to change what y'all do, but this is something that's required by the state of Florida.
So it's just additional language? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so being a public hearing, now we're open to take public comment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the room that wishes to speak publicly about this before we consider adopting this wording to our comprehensive plan, or amending our comprehensive plan for this wording? There's no one in the room. Mr. Morone, can you check and see if there's anyone on via Zoom?
Is anyone on the line attending via Zoom would like to speak on this matter? Please raise your hand. No raised hands, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Then there's no public comment. I guess, Commissioners, do you have any further questions or pleasure of the board at this time? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does anyone have any questions, or does anyone want to make a motion to deny or to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0, as Commissioner Parrish is not currently in the room.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now, Aaron, are we doing a bid opening today?
We are.
Yeehaw.
Okay. Let's see. Notice was given that the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners invited qualified firms to submit a bid to install antimicrobial surfacing at the Franklin County Jail. The quote was for 7 day rooms in the bathroom shower areas of the jail. The total square footage was approximately 9,796 square feet. Work to be included in the quote shall include but not be limited to the following: inspecting the surfaces in the working area, diamond grind horizontal surfaces for coating preparation, filling and repairing existing cracks in concrete, furnishing and installing the coating system, and cleanup and removal of all job-related debris. This is actually going to be the first expenditure out of our American Recovery Act funds, as it was something that was permissible during the interim rule because it was directly related to COVID. And we did have a mandatory pre-bid conference where there was a lot of interest, and however only one firm showed up at the mandatory pre-bid. So, and that is this firm, which is D-Elite Concrete Coatings. Okay, D-Salite is out of Tallahassee, Florida, and their bid is $83,265.30. Again, $83,265.30. And that was right along with our expectations.
They got a bond?
They do. The performance bond is attached.
Do we have a review committee?
Or do we need a review
We
committee?
actually don't really need one.
Okay.
And if you all want to just proceed with, we could do a notice of award.
Yeah. So I guess we could potentially make a motion for a notice of award, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Put in.
Only one?
go ahead.
Yes.
Commissioner Lockley, you got something, Commissioner Lockley?
No, I said,
Nobody else put in.
Yeah, that's the only bid we received, right?
Yeah.
So-
That's correct. Yeah, we did have a lot of interest on the front end, but then nobody actually showed up, so.
Okay, well, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the bid.
Okay. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That's unanimous.
Yeah, we got the money for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
That's all that matters.
Okay. Ms. Griffith, you are next.
Okay, at the meeting on December 7th, the board opened bids for the 5.261 miles of resurfacing on CR 30A. The low bid was $1,377,555 above the available grant funds. FDOT did not have the funds to make up that difference, and neither did the county. At your last meeting, all bids were rejected, and the planning department was instructed to work with the engineers to modify the scope of the project and re-advertise. The engineering firm Half and Associates has submitted an additional services proposal in the amount of $3,500 to revise the scope of the project. This amount could be paid from general maintenance funds and the local option gas tax fund. Board action to proceed with the additional services proposal to revise the project scope and bid documents for the CR 30A resurfacing project.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second one to put.
second by Commissioner Lockley. Go ahead with your comments, sir.
Is we gonna have to keep on dipping if they don't hit nothing again? Have to for them to re-advertise.
Well, hopefully this next time it'll be shortened enough to where the bids will come in on target. And there hasn't been enough of a time delay where the bids could be substantially different. So hopefully that'll fit within the parameters this next go round.
Okay, thank you.
And this is basically just to help them rewrite the
Correct.
the specs, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This will come out of District 4's road paving funds, that basically?
Actually, it would just come out of the general repair and maintenance line item.
Okay.
Each year we do budget about $100,000 there, so.
Okay.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Second item, let's see here. The University of Florida has submitted an amendment to the MOU with Franklin County for the Extension Agent Services. The original MOU has been in place since 2007, and the only change in the attached amendment is the wording which transitioned the county's cost share from being based on 20% of the estimated staffing expenses to one based on actual expenses. Variance between estimated and actual could be caused by changes in benefit rates, retirement contribution rates, or health insurance for the extension agent, and this difference would be funded by the county extension office budget. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman's signature on the attached first amendment to the MOU with the University of Florida.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Is there no numbers involved in this? Do we know what
There
we're
is
voting on here?
actually it was part of the supporting documentation. Our support for Eric's salary and benefits, our 20% equates to about $23,000 a year.
So, yeah,
So when we go from the 20% to actual, what is that gonna be?
Well, the difference could be for any changes in your retirement contribution rates or health insurance. Most likely it would be, it could be $1,000 a year, or it could be $500 a year. It all depends on whatever the FRS retirement contribution rates are for the university. And that changes with our regular budgets as well.
That changes when you're saying changes, that's not put forth by the University of Florida, it's put forth by.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be something that University of
In other
Florida
words,
would
if they
change
went-
on their
if They gave
own.
him a $20,000 raise.
Correct, they would have to come to the county for that.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, there won't be changes made without
No,
us
no.
being collusion with them to know what's going on.
Yeah, no, sir, they do provide an estimate each and every single year, and if there was a significant variance, they would definitely have to get approval by the board.
And we would know about all this before next year's budget.
We would.
Okay.
Yep, they do present us with an estimate each year.
Didn't he just get a raise? Didn't he just got one?
I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Duff.
Yeah, I don't think this is raising the salary. I think it's just saying that what the part the county is responsible to pay for is what they're
I
saying.
know, but they bought something like this before last year.
Yeah, I mean, it really boils down to if the county actually, University of Florida funds 80%, the county funds 20%. So
Right.
if you're interested in the program, that's actually just
Yeah.
a change in their operating procedure.
I ain't got no problem with that, but is we getting that much in return?
I think what makes me question it most, just because the way it's written, is 20% of the estimated, and it's also 20% of the actual. You know what I'm saying? That's,
Oh, okay. Oh,
it just says from
sorry.
20% to actual,
Okay.
and I think that's what's kind of
Okay.
like,
Okay.
ooh, what are we talking about here?
Okay.
So you're moving from 20% of the estimated to 20% of the
20%
actual.
of the actual expense, yes.
Because he's not getting paid $23,000.
No, no.
That's, yeah, I think that clears it up, you know what I mean? So have we had any motions yet on this?
So moved.
Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Sorry, I'm just missing Jessica not being in the room. Jessica Gay, that is. Any discussion before we vote?
Yeah, I think we need to know a little more into that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I vote.
So 4-1 vote, Commissioner Lockley opposes. All right, go ahead.
Right, next item is item C, and it's for board information. It's the draft procurement policy. I've attached to my report the draft procurement policy, which will replace the previous policy, which has been in effect since 2012. The current $10,000 threshold has proven to be overly restrictive, as $10,000 in today's economy does not allow for departments to make repairs and purchases timely. The attached will change the formal bid solicitation threshold from $10,000 to $25,000. Purchases of $25,000 or more will have to be properly advertised and awarded at a public meeting, as we do now. Tiered purchases from $10,000 to $25,000 will require the informal solicitation of 3 quotes and approval by the county coordinator or fiscal manager. The draft policy is currently being reviewed to ensure compliance with federal requirements, and then will be forwarded for review by the county attorney. Once the review process is complete, the policy will come back for formal adoption by the board at the next meeting. And then the next item, D, or do you all want to comment on that one?
I think that's good.
Okay, okay. The next item for board information, as was mentioned earlier, the FERDAP projects advanced to the recommended funding priority list. Grant applications for Bruman Park improvement and the SGI playground improvements at Lighthouse Park have scored high enough to be placed on the FERDAP 22-23 recommended priority list as submitted to the Florida Legislature. At this time, the funding for the projects is contingent upon the Florida Legislature's level of support for the FERDAP program, which will be decided during this year's legislative session.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Aaron before we move on? You got off this time. Thank you, Ms. Aaron, we appreciate it. Mr. Morone?
Yes, sir. My report actually starts at the top of page 9. The county received and I signed the acceptance letter for the East Point FDOT fiscal year 21, God bless, 21-22 beautification grant for the amount of $57,500. The board approved this grant earlier in 2021. The East Point Civic Club will partner with the county on the landscape plan and other FDOT requirements. However, since the contract is with Franklin County and FDOT, the county will be responsible for the project. Mostly, a lot of the administrative stuff, we have to sign. It can't be signed by the East Point Civic Club. And we have to oversee and make sure anything they submit to us is correct before we submit it on to FDOT. So I'm asking the board to ratify my signature on that acceptance letter for the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Item B, at your December 21st meeting, the board and Mr. David Walker discussed Gulf County's plan to reopen the dialysis facility in the medical building next to Sacred Heart Hospital in Port St. Joe. Based on prior use of the clinic, it is expected that some of Franklin County residents will use the clinic since it's a shorter drive than the clinics located in Panama City or Tallahassee. The firm that is in negotiations with Gulf County to reopen the clinic is asking for a startup subsidy of $100,000 for 5 years, I should say per year. Gulf County is asking Franklin County to contribute no more than $25,000 per year to this subsidy based on how many Franklin County residents use the clinic, and that will be backed by some data. During the discussion, it was apparent that the board wanted more data and a funding source for this contribution before committing. With that in mind, Chairman Jones and I met with your Weems CEO, Mr. David Walker, and the Weems Board Chairman, Mr. Duffy Harrison, to discuss the board's concerns. Based on that meeting, Mr. Walker and Mr. Harrison will add this matter to the Weems Board of Directors' January 27th regular meeting agenda and present the results of that discussion at your February 1st regular meeting. Thus, is there anything else from the other board members that you would like me to forward to Mr. Duffy or Mr. Walker to add to the discussion? Commissioner Bolt, I know you usually attend those meetings, so I'm sure you'll be there to ask whatever questions you have. But is there anything else you guys want the Weems Board to look at, discuss, as they send their recommendation back to this board?
Why are we going through this? Why is we going through this? When that paperwork says we cannot send no money out of the Franklin County. It's in the paper. That's the word. The money can't leave Franklin County.
We cannot use the healthcare sales tax money, but if Weems so chooses, they can use some of their operational money that's part of their budget, if they so choose, Commissioner. And the only reason I'm trying to do due diligence with this matter. You know, Commissioner, let me be blunt. I just don't want it to come across that there are dialysis residents live here that deal with this on a daily basis, and we're just saying, they're not worth the $25,000.
No, I ain't saying that.
I know you're not, but
I want to help, but I don't want to get. I ain't gonna get no trouble by him.
I agree. That's why I'm having the Weems Board vet it and come back to you, and you guys could say, well, that we just don't have a funding source because this board did not budget for this. In your regular budget, and I'll be very honest. Weems probably did not budget for this either, commissioners, and so I heard Commissioner Bolt ask Ms. Busby this morning to look at it and see if we could use the American Rescue thing. But I think you said more locally rather than going out the county.
That's right.
So,
I'd like to see it considered to be based here in Franklin County.
And that may be the answer. The answer may be, rather than paying Gulf County to do it, can we start some kind of project or program to do it here within the county?
Well, it's like this. I believe it'll be cheaper to pay that $25,000 and that bill of billing and do all this, getting the money at one time for them people, and then we go from there. It probably would be cheaper just to do this, but it's the wrong timing. We done passed the budget for the year. We can't get it out of healthcare. I'm not gonna vote for to get it out of property tax.
Oh no, yes sir.
No.
So it's just the wrong time, and I mean, if they want to hold us, we deal with it at budget time next year. I can understand.
Yeah, I think this is just giving that our Weems Board a chance to weigh in on it.
Yeah, just let
which
them
is
know.
how it should be.
Just let them know we ain't got no plan.
I will.
Yeah.
I will, sir.
I'm just one committee.
No, but
According to me, we ain't got no fund until maybe they,
That's right. And even that is a maybe. So
Yeah.
I hear you, Commissioner. It's a valid concern. I will forward your concern to to Mr. Walker, so that can be part of the discussion.
if they got the money in their budget, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good.
You good? So Commissioner
good
Bowles,
with
you
that.
could,
Yep.
could back me up on that while
Yes,
you're
sir, I
attending
will.
the meeting.
You bet.
And I wanna see the people took care of, but we got procedures we got to go through.
That's right.
It's just one.
Good. Also been a concern that if they can bill for it, and I think you brought this up too, Commissioner, if they can bill for it through their insurance company, why do they need a subsidy? So that might be a question that Weems boards need to discuss and then forward that on to Gulf County, you know, and say, hey, well, we got a lot more questions than we have answers at the moment, so.
And it might be some kind of way since they got Franklin County, people going up. And the line don't go that way. Why we can't sit up with the insurance company, they bill for it and send it to them?
Where they get paid directly for it.
Yeah, I mean, if we have to bill it for it. I don't know. I'm not a hospital administrator, but if something can be worked out until next year, unless we can.
Okay, well, I'll forward as concerns, and no more concerns on the board.
Okay.
And again, we'll go with that.
Okay.
We already addressed item C, Commissioners. Let's go down to item D, to the bottom of page 9. Earlier this month, Mr. Chris Doolin, of course, you know him as the Small County Coalition Executive Director, invited representatives from each member county to participate in a Zoom call to discuss $1.7 million reduction in the funding and distribution of the Supplemental Distribution Revenue Sharing Program. Chairman Jones, who sits on the Small County Coalition Executive Committee, and I participated on this call. Attached to my report is some background information on the revenue sharing program and a spreadsheet showing the loss for each county. It was recommended during the Zoom call that each county send a letter to their state delegation supporting full funding of this distribution revenue sharing program. Chairman Jones may have additional information. I'm asking the board to authorize the chairman to sign the letter of support, basically to Representative Schoaf, to Senator Osley, and tomorrow, while you guys are up in Tallahassee, the Chairman Jones will in fact hand them either to Chris directly to be passed on, or I think you have meetings tomorrow with each one of our delegation members. You can hand it to them directly, but I just need him to be able to sign those letters of support. The chairman could explain more of the meeting if needed, and Aaron will tell you that money goes into the.
It's actually, it goes into the general fund and
General
also the road and bridge fund.
Yes.
It's basically what it is. It's something that's set up in state statute or that the state has not been funding fully is the issue that's come up. So it's a revenue loss because they haven't been funding it fully. But it's based on counties that have greater than 7% of their population being inmates from the state prisons. Ours is at above 10%. But at the way the state's been funding it, we've been receiving about $19,000 a year as a county, this particular county. But if they fully funded it, it would be about $76,000 a year.
Correct.
So the ask from the Small County Coalition is just fully funded. It's in that way. At the end of the day, it's not a lot of money for the state, but it can be considerable amount of money for all these small counties that have greater than 7% prison population.
Especially since the state is bragging of their.
Yeah, there's a surplus, but we can't go there. That's
Yeah.
the state, that's not us.
I'll let that be that.
But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a huge ask. Just, it's written that way, just fully fund what you have written is what we're asking.
So moved.
So is that a motion to approve?
Yes, motion
Okay.
to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion before we vote on this approval? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 4-0 as Commissioner Lockley is currently not in the room.
All right, move on to page 10, item E. The state attorney, Mr. Jack Campbell, informed the county that the current district medical examiner, Mr. David Stewart, plans to retire from his post. The other doctors in the office of the medical examiner for the 2nd District of Florida are not interested in taking over as a medical examiner. Therefore, there's a need to fill the post. Attorney Campbell would like to create a search committee from this unusually large district that is comprised of 2 judicial circuits and 8 counties. And I'm going to quote from his letter: Florida statutes allow representation on this committee from the following offices: the state attorney, which will be him. He will serve as the chair. You can have someone from the public defender's office, the sheriff's, police chiefs, medical school, or county commissioners, organ procurement office, and funeral directors and mortuary services. Ultimately, the search committee selection must be approved by the medical examiners commission, and the appointment is made by the governor. Is there anybody on the board that would like to submit their name, or someone from the county in your district perhaps that you know?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would welcome my name to be submitted to serve on this committee.
Motion to nominate.
Okay, have a motion to nominate Commissioner Bolt to serve on this committee by Commissioner Parrish.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That is a 4-0 vote, as Commissioner Lockley is still not in the room.
All right, moving on to item F.
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
For the willingness to serve.
Sir.
You bet.
Ms. Riley, your supervisor of elections, has informed staff of the upcoming 2022 statewide county canvassing board workshop to be held at the Carib Royal Orlando Convention Center on Thursday, March 31st. As always, this workshop is intended for county judges, county commissioners, supervisor of elections, and canvassing board attorneys. This year, Commissioners Parrish and Bolt have elections, so they cannot serve. Therefore, we need 2 commissioners appointed to the county's canvassing board, and approval of expenses and travel for all members to attend the workshop. I should not have said of the board, for all members to attend the workshop. Oh, of the canvassing board, I'm sorry, to attend the workshop. That's what I meant. So I need 2 commissioners. That'll be my first motion.
I'm fine
I'll
with
make a
doing it.
motion
I believe the chairman's already a member of that board, so you just need to appoint 1.
Oh, okay, it was automatic, I didn't.
Ms.
Okay.
Jessica, you need to get.
So we have a motion to also
Come on,
put
Ms.
Commissioner
With all
Ward.
due respect, Commissioner Lockley, you don't want to do that?
I done done it.
I done done-
About 5 times.
I knew how that was fixing to go. So we have a motion to add Commissioner Ward onto the canvassing board for the upcoming election.
So move.
Had a motion. Yeah, for Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second was Commissioner Bolt. That's what you asked for, correct?
Yeah, you
Expenses
can
are
make
paid
it
and
one
all that.
motion if, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
The 2 members and travel and expenses for
Yes.
all members traveling for that.
Right.
Yeah, see, y'all got to go to Atlanta, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Get that training. But it's a good experience. That's why once you've done it, I'll take y'all lady.
It almost sounds like
Yeah.
your parents trying to make you eat spinach or something.
Yeah, I can add something to that
Yeah.
too, Mr. Chairman. Being on the canvassing board is truly a enriching experience. There are times when there's just some standby time there in the canvassing board arena, and there sitting by your side all the time is the judge of our county, and you have an opportunity to really spend some quality relationship building time with Judge Schuler. It's very, very special times. And with the staff, you learn the insight of the supervisor of elections process. It's very rich.
So we had a motion and a second. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, Commissioners. Item G, Ms. Caroline Smith of ARPC stated that the final report for the Franklin County Code Enforcement Project is completed, and she's prepared to present this report to the board. I recommend we schedule a 1:30 p.m. workshop on February 1st after your regular meeting for this presentation. This would allow sufficient time for Ms. Smith to review the report and for board questions and comments. After we get through this presentation, I will discuss with the board scheduling the state fire marshal's office to present to the board. And the reason with that, since the state fire marshal's office is asking for an hour, I know the board had said at one time to put it on the agenda. An hour is a long time for your morning agenda. I would say we need to have a schedule, a separate workshop for that. But I do think we need to get through the code enforcement first. That was on the schedule first, and we need to deal with that.
It was not on the schedule, it was also something we paid to have.
We paid for it.
Done and
Yes,
brought
sir.
to us.
Yes,
sir.
and people participated. We had multiple public hearings across the county for that. So that involves the entire county. So I need a motion to allow me to schedule that workshop at your next meeting at 1:30 p.m.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt and Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Moving on, at your September 7th, 2021 regular meeting, after consulting with your labor attorney, the board agreed to allow access until December 31st, 2021 to employees that had remaining federal, I'll just say COVID emergency sick leave, providing one of the three eligible requirements were met, an employee completed the emergency paid sick leave request form. With this new COVID-19 strain that seems to be highly contagious, is the board willing to extend access to leave until March 31st, which will be retroactive January 1, 2022, to do that? To be clear, the county is not adding leave to any employee, only granting access to those that have a remaining balance of this COVID leave. So I'm just asking for an extension,
Okay,
Commissioner.
a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion?
Yeah, that thing,
Yes.
it done got, well, they got the new strain, and it's getting worse. I mean, they say it's not bad as the other, but I think we need to add it, and really, I think the state need to add some more, 'cause who knows, it could be some more strain coming out of it. You never know. I don't, that's for the scientists. But the people ought to be able to get paid, because they didn't bring this on themselves, the way I see it. It's something out there.
Right.
Sir?
Mr. Chairman,
Do we-
you're saying that we're paying for this extended leave, with COVID dollar, with federal dollars, right?
I would say with federal dollars, basically, it's like sick leave. They're off, so you don't, they get paid for the day, you just don't get productive time from them.
The federal government actually made the county offer the leave in the first place.
Yeah.
But they did not actually provide funding for the county to do so,
So it's like a federal mandate. They say, give your employees this leave, but they didn't give any money to offset the non-productive time you would get by that employee being home, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm asking how you paying these people to stay home sick? The county's paying it?
Same way we've done it the whole time. It's always been.
Yeah,
like
it's
this.
like adding sick, like a different Department of Sick Leave that they're getting, I guess, if you want to say that, yes. Just like, people accumulate sick leave every time they work. That's how our employment works. It's not saying that correctly. Erin, you sounded, you just want to.
We
Yes,
can't
but-
take some of this money Ms. Busby was talking about this morning, put aside to help take care of some of these COVID-related issues?
I will ask.
Because as Commissioner Lockley just said, this may keep going.
Yeah.
yeah,
What if
at
they're gonna
some
give us some
point,
federal dollars and we can't use those dollars to, not to offset COVID, what was the word you used this morning?
Amend.
I think the problem's gonna be, pretty sure from the ruling stuff, you can't just set aside any of this money. It's gotta be used. I don't think you can hold it in abeyance and just say, we're gonna use it one day, or you can't store it away and say, we're just gonna keep it. It's supposed to be used. I'm pretty sure that's the way it's written. But she can answer better than I could.
Well, how do we budget for this?
That's actually just part of your regular employee leave. You know, we don't budget anything additional because all employees are salaried, so. Now, this is an extension of what the federal leave that was granted about a year and a half ago or so, or possibly even 2 years now. You know, all the years are kind of rolled together. So there's not any new leave being granted. It's just strictly if an employee, you know, did not use their entire COVID allocation of the 2 weeks that were initially granted, they still have the option of using that time that was unused.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm sure there are very few employees right now
There's
that actually
probably
have
very
that
few.
leave. Very few,
Yeah.
because you know, you remember the issues with the road department. Fonda's had his issues too. So yeah.
But it ain't right, Coach.
And at some point too, it will become just commonplace. You know, it's actually going to evolve into a new normal.
Like,
and hopefully it will.
I hate to compare, but it's going to be like having the flu. You know, you get the flu, you stay home, you don't have any special leave for that.
Well, they said China ought to pay for it. That's who they say it comes from.
They ain't paying for this.
I ain't.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I was confused. I thought this was additional
No.
sick time.
No, this is still working off that 2-year-old rule the federal government had passed down.
Yeah, but when you done used all your sick leave, so you just got to miss work, don't get paid.
Basically, yes, sir.
And that ain't right, Coach. The people didn't ask for this. I mean, this is sick leave you didn't ask for.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to, Mr. Lockley, but
I'm sorry. About
we
that.
didn't budget for it, so.
Yeah, but it's crazy. I mean, sick is sick.
They give them money for everything except for these employees that might have used their sick time the first time they had it, now they got it again, and there ain't no relief for it.
Yes,
They don't
exactly.
work, they don't get paid.
Yep, basically.
It's just that simple.
That simple.
Well, that don't make no sense. I mean, but it is what it is. I'll leave it at that.
So have we already had a motion and second on this?
Yeah, I think so. Right? Yes.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Buzz to the check that we can, they talking about if the money can't be held. Can I say something?
Yeah, you can.
They said the money can't be held up and put back. That's what you said.
Yep.
But they hold it up and stopped it. They hold it up there and send it to you when they get ready. But that ain't right. What these people, cause people not, I mean, people be fine a day and come, and then they come in, they go and get sick. Cause ain't nobody getting sick for nothing. This ain't no playing sick. It's sick for real. I mean, this ain't right. I mean, them folks, we ought to be able to ask them to delegate, to ask do something. They playing politics too much.
So we're ready to vote?
Uh-huh. I hope.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, so the next 4 items are informational items, but I think I kind of need to touch on each one. The first one is really simple. That 30-mile reef permit application is fully executed, has been sent to the Corps for their review and for their permitting. So I just wanted the board to know that and that be in the record. The next one is permit legislation. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to say it, and then if you have questions, you can ask me. So basically, there was a House bill that changed the way that city and county building departments conduct business. They now put restrictions on if somebody turns in a building permit application, how many times you can ask them for additional information, and how quickly you have to turn over the permit. I say all of this because, as I said in the statement here, I think a lot of our contractors and the public in general are not aware of this. So they're a little shocked when they bring their permit into our office and the permitting clerk says, I can't accept this, I need a completed application. They're like, well, I'll send you the stuff later. And they're like, no, I'm sorry, we cannot stamp this in as a submission until you complete the application. And it's because of a state mandate. That's why. So I'm saying this in a way, hopefully, that gets out to the public. And when you commissioners receive complaints, like I know you do, that what's going on with your building department, all of a sudden now, you know, they don't trust me. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the manner now we have to deal with permit applications.
And that's because you're limited as to how many times you can ask them for additional information.
That's correct.
So you need a complete application to begin with.
Yes, and after 30 days, there's a process you have to go through. Yes.
Well, do y'all got this on your website?
No, not have what, the new rule? No, I'm gonna put it on there today. I just wanted to talk to the board before I put it on there as to what's going on and an explanation. And what's gonna happen, so we are this close to getting the new permitting software live and running. That software will address a lot of the issues we have in House Bill, because so if you turn in an app, I'm looking at Attorney Schuler. So Attorney Schuler turns in a permitting application. He is supposed to be able to track the progress of his application online through the county. So this new software will do that, allow him to do that. Right now, he has to call in if he wants to know where it is for the most part. I mean, he either knows, right now, he can go, he can see the permit was issued, he could see what the inspections are. But prior to that, he can, you'll have to call the office to track where you are in the system. State to say, not anymore. We want anybody to be able to click and see where they are in the process. So I say all this to say, once that software goes live, Steve, actually the entire building department, are going to hold a workshop, invite the public, contractors, everybody into this room, and we'll show how everything works on the television and how to work the software from your end, from the public end, and how you can get information. And it will include explaining why we have to deal with permits the way we do now, permit applications.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And then there's another amendment to this. With a completed application before it's stamped in, isn't there also, from a time-saving standpoint, relative, I know, to Lanark Village, that Lanark Village has a review committee?
Yes.
And that review committee should provide a pre-stamped in review of that permit in its entirety, properly engrossed, and when it's reviewed by that committee, then it's another layer qualifying it to be stamped in, and then at the stamp in, the time clock begins. That's the factor.
That's correct. So before, we would get the application, and then we would send it out to the review. It's a 2-member committee in Lanark Village.
Yeah.
We would send it to them, they would review it, and then send it back to us and say, yeah, we have. We can't do that anymore. Now, as a person, when they're bringing in the application, we give them the contact information for the Lanark Village Review Committee. They have to go to them, get their okay, then they bring it back to us, and we stamp it in, and then the clock starts, basically.
This validates the Lanark Review Committee.
So who getting the issue out of this, the homeowner association? Who getting the best deal? I mean, why they?
Well,
It's a rule the state passed.
I'm sure somebody lobbied the state about, counties and cities not being efficient with their applications, and this is what they came up with. I don't want to compare it to the guardrails on the bridge, but somebody down south got in an accident off a causeway, and now every causeway in the state has these guardrails. Just let that go there. Okay. Scheduling agenda times. So, again, I'm just going to summarize here. So basically, I mean, prior to today, which we look like we might get out by 12:30, hopefully, we've been having some long meetings. And so, I did get some complaints from the public that sometimes they have to wait on either Zoom or in here for an item that they have that comes before you, and it's running really long, and I think it's unfair to the public, to be very honest with you, Commissioner. So I'm going to try something here. So from now on, I'm going to put all presentations that people want to come before you with any type of presentation in any way, a request that they want to discuss with you, I'm going to keep those to the first meeting of every month. So, so if somebody comes to you, I guess, and say, well, why wouldn't Michael put me on the second meeting? No, so if they miss one meeting, they'll be on the first meeting of the following month. On the second meeting, I'm trying to encourage everyone, Mark, Courtney, Attorney Schuler, let's do public hearings at the second meeting when we have the planning and zoning report. because most public hearings, in some way or the other, tie back into that. So planning and zoning, public hearings on the second meeting of the month, all presentations to the board will be at the first meeting of every month. Let's see if that cuts the time, because mixing the two, obviously it's not working. I'm sorry, Commissioner, it's just not. I mean, being here 1:30, 2:30, that's not helping anybody.
Yeah, can I
I'm
say
sorry.
something too?
Yes, sir.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Well, another thing, we have people come and say, well, I ain't got nothing for the board, but I just want to give you some information. They be done sent that information to us. Why they got to tell it on the TV?
You mean your directors?
Yeah.
That's up to the board. I mean,
if they ain't got nothing for it, what? Tell them to stay off it.
I think the problem has been sometimes is that you guys might have something for them that you know, that they are unaware of at that moment. So that's why you ask each one. But I don't think they take too long anymore, Commissioner. But I mean, it's up to the board if you want me to.
If we got something, we call down here and tell them come in. If they ain't got nothing for the board.
That's up to the board.
It's up to y'all.
Mike, when you're talking about presentations and all this, is that including the workshops like with the fire marshal
Yes.
and all that?
Yes.
So this first of February, we going to do the ARPC?
Yes, sir.
So it would be the 1st of March before we could do the fire.
Yes,
fire
March
marshal.
or April, depending on their schedule. Yes,
But
sir.
that needs to be in the evening too. I agree with you. That don't need to tie up an hour of our morning meeting.
Yes.
So when you got people here that's got other things that need to be addressed, they gotta sit here and listen to our, so we need to set that up for March.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever meeting that is, 1st or 2nd, whichever one you're talking about.
Yes.
After lunch at 1:30 or something like that.
I will.
Give them an hour.
Okay, I will.
I mean, that's what I think. I don't know about the rest of the board.
I just want to make sure that you guys agree with what I'm going to try with this process, and let's see how it works out, if our meetings flow better, you know?
Yeah. Well, if it doesn't work, we can always change it.
Change it back.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and one other thing I'll mention, Attorney Schuler, don't look my way, but, you know, again, I will drop the hint about consent items and agendas, because let's take, for instance, this morning, you had a number of docs, a number of public hearing requests. If you guys didn't have an issue with any of those per se, you could have voted all of them. I think Commissioner Lockley actually asked, why can't we vote all of these in one motion? I want you guys to think about that. Remember, a consent doesn't lock an item in. You could always say, you guys could vote in the others. I want to discuss this particular item. You see? That's another thing that would speed up the process too, Commissioners, because if you have questions of any item, that's what Mark and Courtney's for, especially for planning and zoning item. Get with them before the meeting, you get your questions answered, you know. But I'm not pushing that right now. I'm just planting a seed just to see how that works out, you know.
We know we got to get these people public here. If you got 3 of them now, you vote all of them at one time. We got to get them.
Yeah. If that's procedurally, Attorney Schuler, put you on the hot spot. If that's something potentially the board wanted to do, is that something we just do as administrative? I mean, how does that work?
Now, there has to be an action of the board. We've had consent agendas a couple of times, and they don't tend to work out well long-term, but, you know, maybe 3rd or 4th time's the charm, who knows?
3rd or 5th or 6th.
I mean, it's hard to tell,
Yeah.
but it's lawful. Consent agendas are lawful, and Mr. Morone is correct. Any board member can pull any item off of the consent agenda. But what we used to do at one point was not just pull it off and debate it at that particular hearing, but pull it off and then reschedule it to the next hearing so there's time to develop whatever the issues may be. So the board members are not just hit and blindside without any preparation, without any information during a meeting, having to basically make that legislation live, as opposed to having a chance to receive substantive information, consider it between meetings, and then make a decision at the next meeting. I'm not saying it has to be that way, but it's been done both ways. Ultimately, the board didn't like either way, but this is not the same board, it's a different board, so who knows what will happen. But the consent agendas are lawful, they can be efficient, and frankly, it doesn't hurt to try it again. I mean, certainly no reason not to. If the board decides you don't like it, then the board makes a new policy decision.
It's good for non-controversial issues.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
If it
Yes, sir.
becomes a
That's right.
controversial issue and the public doesn't have a chance to weigh in, that's when it becomes controversial.
Yes, sir.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
So, and how do you pick all that out? Or how does the administrator pick all that out?
Yeah.
Because he might think it's non-controversial and your constituents tell you it is
Yeah,
controversial.
that's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
I
That's
do,
what
you
causes
bet.
controversy.
Yeah.
Which was part of the reason for kicking it to the next meeting, so people say, oh, well, I didn't get a fair opportunity to be informed and weigh in on the process. I didn't understand what the issues were, so
But it also delays,
it can.
it can delay the project for another 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to think
Or if we're
about.
not going to do, say, public hearings except once a month, that could delay it for another month in this case.
That's
So,
correct.
Yeah, but, just when we're talking about on this, on the flip side, I mean, signing the East Point Beautification Grant letter, signing the letter for Small County Coalition, you know what I mean, something that didn't require us having a discussion on, scheduling the workshop for the ARPC meeting for 1:30. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Stuff that did, those could all be voted on one time. and be
Yeah,
done
yeah,
with all of
If
it.
you bundle
You know,
it.
it's
That's true.
maybe not just all P and Z stuff for consent, that's not what I'm even trying
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah, you have a
I'm just
point.
saying consent, period.
I didn't even think of it from that point of view, but yeah, you do have a
Yeah, I
point.
like that.
And it's something I could send to you ahead of time, and you say, Michael, take that out.
Yeah,
I want
exactly.
to talk about
Yeah.
this one. Yeah. So, yeah, but think about it, commissioners, and with a future meeting, we could let me know, and I could bring it up as a action item, and you guys can make a decision.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, another issue, or you done with your report, right, Mike?
One more thing, if you don't mind, one more thing, some good news. The adult welding program is going to start February 1st. Thought that was important to you, Commissioner Lockley. Basically, if you guys are good, I'm going to put that also up on the website today. There's a $200 fee. It's a 6-week class. It's an introduction to welding, or if you need to refine your skill, they are welcoming people to come out there and use their brand new facility
Yeah.
to do that. But there are only 10 spots available.
What time?
It's in the evening.
It's in the evening. It's on the
Tuesday and
flyer.
Thursday?
Yeah, I don't-
Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Yeah, I have to go look on the flyer
I
and
think it's
see.
like from 5:30 to 7:30 or
Well,
something.
6 or something to 8, something like that, yes, sir. But there are only 10 spots available, and the flyer has the contact person to reach out to register for that. But Commissioner Lockley, I know something you've been asking for a very long time, so I was glad to see that, and I asked for a copy of the flyer, and they sent it to me.
I was wrong, Michael. It's Tuesdays and it's from 6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Yep.
That's good, huh? Maybe some of these young folks will take advantage of it, I hope.
I hope so too, because welding pays a lot, I hear,
Yeah, they do.
per hour.
It's a rich career.
They got a shipyard over there.
Yes, sir.
for 'em.
Yep, the shipyard is over there, sir. Yes, sir.
They actually pull them every day.
I'm good, Commissioner Parrish. That's it for me.
Can I,
Yes.
when we're talking about we got people in East Point wanting to rezone commercial property to residential. Now we got people coming today with public hearing residential back to commercial.
Mhm.
My question is how active is the Civic Club in East Point? And should they have a recommendation of some kind of input into what East Point's becoming?
Kind of like the Lanark Village Review
Yes.
Committee. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting a lot of complaints about some of the things going on in East Point. You guys, when they say that, they're talking about the Board of County Commissioners, are
You
ruining
guys.
East Point. You're ruining it. So much commercial development. You got people wanting R8 and R10 and all this max density stuff. And we're not getting any input. I mean, we're getting input from our commissioners that represent East Point, but we're not getting input from the people that live in East Point. So I'm wondering, I don't know if Commissioner Jones has heard any of this controversy or heard any of the comments, but it's becoming more and more. And as Alan said this morning, there's more commercial going on. But you know, whichever one has the most value is the way people want their property rezoned.
Yep.
And a lot of times that's commercial to residential because you can buy commercial property a lot cheaper than you can buy a residential lot or acreage. So they're wanting to rezone the commercial to residential when the boom is up right now. But when the boom falls out, then they don't want residential, they want commercial, something they can use the property to make money with. And that's just the way it is. I mean, we went through this back in early 2000s. So I've seen it come and go, and it's just repeating a cycle right now. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking, you know, I mean,
Well,
you have to really think about when people come in here and want rezoning properties and they want to do, it's usually money that drives this stuff. It ain't about the community or what the community's gonna look like in the aftermath. It's about the dollar. The dollar drives everything. And I hate to see us, you know, 5, 8, 10 years from now say, you know, we really messed up here, 'cause look at this mess that we got. And East Point is not incorporated, so they don't have a city. Should the East Point Civic Club look at some of this stuff? If they want to guide the way they think their community, or is that just specifically for the waterfront? I don't know.
Yeah, I know I attend most of their meetings, so anything they have to say, they.
I mean, it's
plenty of time to say
changing
it.
with all the rezonings and all this density that everybody wants, and we've always tried to keep the density down in Franklin County. But if people ask for more density, you give it to them, then they got it. The only thing they're guaranteed to have is what they have when they bought that property. You understand what I'm saying?
I sure do.
Another issue is, well, I got 4 acres. Well, one of them's a pond, so you can't build nothing on that. But when they submit for these higher densities, well, I want, you know, 5 units an acre. I got 4 acres. Well, one of them you can't even use. So now you're down to 3 acres, but you want 5 units per acre on them 4 acres. So now you got 20 units on 3 acres, not 20 units on 4 acres. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot of this going on that if you don't really pay attention to what's happening and why it's happening, you don't have a clue. You say we got 4 acres and want 5 units an acre. Well, if ain't but 3 of them buildable, now you create more density on the 3 acres that are available to be built on. You understand what I'm saying? In actuality, they couldn't build in the wetlands to begin with. State law prohibits all that. Our comprehensive plan prohibits all that. So, you know, it's just something to think about.
Yeah. So Commissioner, Chairman Jones, Commissioner Ward, do you want me to reach out to the chairman
That'd
of
be
the East Point, or you guys will?
It don't,
Either way.
I don't know that the board even wants them to have a say-so.
Well,
I mean, it's in the
I do.
comprehensive plan that East Point is the designated urban service area.
That's correct.
Because they have water and sewer. So if there is gonna be any density in the county, that's where it's gonna be. So if we wanna change the comp plan, yeah, let's have that discussion. You know,
That's up to the people that live over there. I don't, you know, I don't live over there, so.
well, I'm a pretty captive audience where I'm at. I mean, I hadn't heard a whole lot. They can walk through the door and I'm there most of the time, so. I haven't heard a whole lot of it.
So you guys let me know if you want me to ever, you know, kind of include them in you know, requests, especially rezoning,
Yeah.
land use change requests, you know, in East Point.
You know, I'm different in the respect of, I don't care what kind of club they got. They can be the civic, the judicial, or anything else. I don't believe in people telling people what they can do with their property. And they don't own it, they ain't paying no taxes on it. But they gonna sit up there and tell people that I don't wanna see this, I don't wanna see that. And, you know, that ain't too sharp, cause people spend money for that property. And they ain't spending their money for somebody else to look at, cause they talking about it look good. If it look good to them, they need to buy it from them people and look at it. And let them people sell it.
You got a point.
I mean, you know, I can't afford to buy something for other people to look at. And a whole lot of people can't. I don't know who can, if people could do that, I'm glad for them, but me, I got to flip. And I can't even do that. So it's kind of hard to, you know, that's my take on it. But I'm just one commission. That's just what man tell you.
Well, at the end of the day, I know in the time I've been on this board, we've not rubber stamped anything. There's been stuff that has been turned down, there's been stuff that's been approved, you know, there's stuff that's been revisited.
Yeah.
There's people that waited a year, brought their stuff back, trying to get it approved, you know, so, I don't think we rubber stamp anything.
I know. But that go to show that people are trying to, the average person, when they buy something to make money.
Yeah.
Or
Mr.
they'll
Chairman.
be a millionaire.
Yes, Commissioner Bolt.
I wanted to ask Michael if he could look into one other potential.
Okay.
We have several projects that are standing by in the county that are pending different funding sources. Let's take an example would be the Island View Drive Park. Been going on for 2-3 years. Would it be appropriate to just have a brief informational signage that sits there on that pending project as the folks drive by? They know we're really actively involved in the pending funding of that project, and let's tell them so on a small sign by that project.
I mean,
could we look into that potential and put that there?
that's what you think needs doing, but we weren't a month ago, Mr. Kendi from Dewberry was here and updated the board where the stage of all
I'm talking about the
those were.
people. People are wondering to me, hey, when are you going to get Island View Drive opened up again? What are you doing about that? You're abandoning it.
What I think he's asking for is like, so when you drive by Island Drive, you'll see Island Drive project,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
funded by XYZ, slate to be ended
That's
by the summer of 2023 or
But
something.
we don't know when the end date is.
I know, I know.
No, but at least the people knows we know that at least we're working on funding that project, but we're not going to give them a time frame, just informational that your county's on top of this. Stand by.
But, that's what you want to do, but we are. I mean, I don't know what good the sign's going to do.
It'll tell people,
It'll
I just
give-
have people asking me about
Yeah.
what they think is a dormant project, and it's not.
It's not dormant, it's.
I know it
Going
isn't.
through the whole FEMA process. and
Oh,
trying
sure
to-
it is.
But listen, here's the thing with Island View Park in particular, the county, that was put in our name 2 days before Hurricane Michael hit.
I remember, yeah.
They made sure we got it in our name. That's where we're at with that. I mean,
I know.
that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
They made sure it was in our name before that storm hit.
Okay, sure, I understand that.
So
Yeah, I
that's
saw
where
that.
we're at.
Yeah,
I did speak to Clay Kennedy this morning, and he does anticipate within the next, month and a half, we'll be able to actually go out for bid on that project.
oh, surely, yes. And I'm using Island View only as an example, as we see different projects pending funding countywide, tell the people with a sign we're on it.
Yes, sir. No, and I just don't think the sign would help, is my only thing. I think if anything, that's gonna probably make people even more upset.
I see.
That we think that, they need, this.
I do
Anyway,
understand.
I just,
Okay,
that's my take on it. I'm just one of five.
okay.
But Mr. Morone, if you want to look into that and bring
I
something
will.
back to us, that's fine.
Thank you.
Anything else from Mr. Morone before we move on? Okay. Attorney Schuler, we're moving to you, sir.
Yes, sir. The only item I have on my report is the memorandum that I drafted and delivered to the board last week regarding the request to use healthcare trust funds over in Gulf County for the dialysis. That's sort of been discussed already under
Right.
Mr. Roan's report. But I did want to bring it up and ask the board if y'all had any questions or comments for me regarding the memorandum.
No, I think it was pretty clear. We just can't, if we decide to do anything, it can't come from the healthcare trust fund,
Yes, sir.
as
That
far
is
as
correct.
our side of it.
Correct. Well, if there are no board questions, then I do want to add to the commentary under Mr. Marone's report, because the restriction that was discussed publicly was that the healthcare trust fund restricts the use of those funds to Franklin County. But I wanted to stress for the board and for the public that there are at least two restrictions. One limits the use of the healthcare trust fund to Franklin County, but when this board negotiated the interlocal agreements with the two cities, that was not the only restriction. The other restriction limits the use of those funds exclusively to Weems Hospital, which would include its infrastructure, its operations, its services, and the ambulance. So, for example, if someone, I know Commissioner Parrish, for example, has been concerned about someone coming to the county and saying, well, we want to access the healthcare trust fund because of indigent services provided to Franklin County residents. That by definition is happening outside of Franklin County. And so those healthcare trust funds would not be available for the payment of any indigent care services that are rendered outside of Franklin County. And the same would apply if someone comes to this board and says, well, we want to access the trust fund for services within the county, but those services are not provided by Weems Hospital. Then the answer under the interlocal agreements, unless they're amended, is no, that would not qualify for funding. So I want to have that discussion publicly with the board. It's not just a restriction geographically, but it's also limited just to Weems Hospital.
Good.
So with that, unless the board has any questions for me, Mr. Chairman, I am done.
I don't have a question, but I do have something I want to discuss while
Yes,
we're in
sir.
your part of the report. So it come up at our last meeting, we received a letter from DEP about a particular residence on the island that was deemed to be out of compliance. Their aerobic septic system allowed for a certain usage, and they were advertising online. And anyway, we've done some changes to the house, and they were advertising a lot more people. I can tell you since then that the state has been very firm in their stance, and I'd just like to see, I mean, we haven't done anything different, but I want to make sure this board understands what's going on so we support what the state is doing. Because, so if you take a aerobic septic system that's for 12 people and you change it to 24, you're about to have some major environmental issues. And as it's already been stated by Mr. Pierce earlier this morning, there's not a central sewer system on the island. Every place over there, except with the exceptions of some, like Sunset Beach, that have their own system, they're all aerobic systems. So if you compound this over 200 houses across the island, that's a severe environmental issue. So as the state continues to work toward it, whatever comes our way, I just think we need to support what they're doing. And that's, and I just wanted to make sure that the board knew what was going on with that.
Yes, sir, I concur.
Yeah.
Are all the board members familiar with the DEP letter the chairman's referring to? Because it came in my email box over the
Yeah.
holiday weekend. I'm frankly surprised, or over the holiday break, so I'm surprised I actually, caught it and read it. But I personally think it's a great thing. It's something that Mr. Pierce has talked about for, oh goodness, decades probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to the board and make sure everybody knew that they're actually proceeding. So without going into too much detail, I met with a couple yesterday from the island about doing some commercial development in the business district, and they happen to be the same couple that owns the property that was non-compliant. So anyway, so that was an interesting discussion, but they assured me that they were going to do everything it took to come into compliance, so they would be able to keep a certificate of occupancy upon their house. So just want to make the public and the board aware of what's going on. Anyone else have a concern while we're on Attorney Schuler's report or anything legal to discuss?
Well, really, if the state doing it, ain't nothing we can do about it, no way.
Oh, no,
We got to
but-
follow suit.
Yeah, that's right, but if they come to us asking us to do anything, we need to be prepared to support it. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
We automatically got to do it. Ain't-
I don't know. We ain't done too many things automatic, Commissioner. We do some automatic, but not too many.
Hey, they out there, they over us.
They are. They are. All right. Anything else for Attorney Schuler? All right. Any commissioner comments?
Well, I got one.
All right.
Now, my thing with that University of Florida thing is, I wanted to see more children get involved in some program. We got the school system. They got programs, but I want to see them bring in more programs than what they got. They helping some kids and they leaving a lot out there on the street. Everybody don't like archery and swimming or whatever. So they need to bring some more programs in get more children involved. They one of the best universities in the world, and they ain't got a study hall up there for kids to go to school with, or something like that. They can bring in anything. I mean, but do anything. I want to see these young children off the street. They got too much idle time. Give them something to do, and they supposed to be helping us with some kind of program, and they can figure it out better than we can.
And what agency was that again you're mentioning?
Huh?
What agency?
IFAS.
IFAS.
University of Florida Extension.
Oh, I support that 100%.
Yeah.
Learning how to study, I think, is key to success of our children.
Yeah, I mean, if they bring a study hall or anything.
Yeah. Homeroom, study hall, I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, it can bring in more kids, and a lot of people don't. You got basketball at school, you got football at school, you got soccer and all that. Some children don't like that.
That's right.
It's true.
And some children don't like what I put in. But they can bring in something. They're a university. They can bring in something to help them children say, hey, I want to go to prepare them if they don't go to the University of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They can go to somebody.
Sure.
They ain't got to go to college, training, do something. But bring in some programs. Get them off the street. Mm-hmm. You'll see a better Franklin County.
Yes, sir. Any other commissioners? Meeting adjourned.